Consider yourself an accessory. Someone to catch these words is a necessity. You can't deny that the blame isn't yours. If you're hearing this, you're an accomplice listener. I got the best, I got the best, I got the best listeners. Am I guilty of being word burglars? Sure, but if you're hearing this, you're an accomplice.
We are live.
Hey, we're live. Welcome to Keeping Up with the Cardassians. We are a podcast that finds itself located in a bar this very evening, a bar called Ascension Brewery. I'm Nick.
I'm Joe.
This is Rob.
And welcome. And we've brought with you some lovely, lovely guests.
Did you say brought with you?
We've brought to you. We brought to you,
there you go.
How many
in
you
your
had,
homes.
Nick?
This is my 1.5 beer mark.
Okay.
So I'm cut off. So anyways, welcome to the podcast. Today is a very special day. We are doing a live podcast. Well, not live, technically.
No, not live.
It's as live as it ever has been.
It's
Yeah.
as live as you're going to get.
And
Well,
in public.
We are from Ascension Brewery, which is located in Novi,
Yes.
Michigan, the land of the free and the home of the brave. I'm sure.
As
it
well
works.
as the surrounding areas.
True
Farmington
story,
Hills.
true story. Did you know Novi, they named it that way because it was the number 6 stop on the train line.
It's like
Nick
miles
hates
off
Roman
M10,
numerals.
so.
Novi
Yeah.
was just rated as one of the best cities in the country to live in.
Oh my gosh.
Only 2 cities in Michigan were on the list. Novi was the second.
How dare you talk,
was the
sir?
oth- what
What
was
is
the
your
other one?
name?
Traverse City?
So,
Ann Arbor.
all right.
Oh, that makes sense.
So that was Mike.
I noticed East Lansing wasn't on there.
We brought in a special guest here, Mike. He's a good friend. He's a loyal listener of the show. Listens every single week.
Never miss it.
Never misses it. Always misses it. And he brought him in. So anyways, real quick, this show today is a special episode. One of the things that I've done in my career, I'm not going to tell you what I do for a living.
What do you do?
I'm a pastor. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I didn't.
I never heard that before.
But one of the
We're
things
learning
that,
things about Nick.
One of the things that we used to do was pub theology at our church. We had a pub theology group, and every other Thursday, or second and fourth Thursdays, or the first and third, it depended on the time of the year, we'd gather guys together, we'd gather people together, and we would ask questions that were theological questions, but were not close-ended questions, and were not designed to be researched, right? So, like, if anyone
Wonderful.
came to it and said, I can quote scripture, I can quote this, or I can quote that, no thank you, there was no room for that. It was really about spending time to really evaluate what your thoughts are, what your feelings are, and really kind of like decide on what you believe, right? So we would ask questions, like one of the questions was, what is truth? And we would have a debate on what is truth.
I think we've already had that debate on this.
We've
on
had
this
that
very
on our podcast. We've had other debates on, I can't remember. Can you guys remember some of the debates we've had? Bill and Mike are here. They're pub theology guys.
Oh, a lot of, as you mentioned, a lot of open-ended questions, right? What does it mean to be good? Is God good? How can God be good if there are bad things that happen?
Right. So we go down those rabbit holes and we spend the whole night talking about them. But one of the key things that we did in that is it was all about mutual respect for another. Because a lot of the times when you're in conversations with people, you can tell they're waiting for their chance to talk. They're not listening to you. They're just waiting for their moment, their gotcha moment.
I stopped paying attention a long time ago.
Exactly, because you were staring into my eyes. I
was.
saw that. So
My
the
eyes
big
are up
thing
here,
was
Nick.
the big thing was respect. So we were here to respect each other, listen to each other, hear each other out, and we built up a really good group, and we had a lot of fun. And Rob came to it quite a few times. I invited Joe, but Joe sucks,
Yeah, Joe sucks.
so Joe never came. Yeah.
I showed up somewhere. Like, you know what? I would go with the first and the fourth Thursday, and you guys would be there like the second and third Thursday.
Showing up to your bedroom while you cry yourself to sleep does not count.
It counts for me.
It does. It does.
All right.
So
Don't take these little wins I have left away from me.
So Rob would come and he's like, that'd be fun if we did that for our podcast and had a conversation, not necessarily about theological things, though if you want to bring those in, you can, but like Star Trek related things. Now, here's the thing. That's super intimidating to talk about Star Trek, especially if you've never watched Star Trek, right?
Like me.
Exactly. There you go. So none of the questions are designed for people who have necessarily watched Star Trek. They're not designed that way. But what they are designed for I will mention some bit of Star Trek, why it's associated with it, and then the question will be posed based off of that. So you don't need to know Star Trek, but that's all it is. So with that said, should we introduce everyone?
Yes, we should.
All right, let's start introducing. Who wants to start first?
So, Bill.
Bill.
My name's Bill.
Hi, Bill.
Wow, Bill, thank you.
That was the best introduction I've ever heard in my life.
Bill, if I were to guess, you would be 48 years old.
49. You are so close, Joe. You know
Dang.
I like this guy.
So
Like him
close.
already.
You didn't like him a few minutes ago.
So
Hey,
close.
nobody asked you.
No one asked you. No one
What's some of
asked
your nerd resume?
you. Oh,
What's my new resume? Let's see. I really don't understand why there's this thing where Star Trek people and Star Wars people act like they can't like the same thing.
Thank you, Bill.
I love Star Trek. I love Star Wars. You know, you ask me which one is my favorite. Depends on which day you're asking me. But I love both.
okay.
I mean, he told me he was listening to an audiobook on the way here. So that's a solid nerd resume right there.
Or lazy.
Anyone who
It
listens,
is lazy.
Efficient.
I would say anyone who listens to a podcast is technically a nerd. And that's not saying a bad thing, but I mean, there's only special people in the world who are like, I would really like to watch a documentary on TV, but I don't want all the pictures to distract me. I'm just going to listen to a podcast. That's my viewpoint. So, anyways, Mike, you're up.
Well, I appreciate that you just referenced that this podcast is equivalent to a documentary without pictures.
It
That
is.
beautiful.
It is.
My name is Mike. I am 40. My nerd
End of
resume.
story.
My nerd resume. I guess I used to play 40K. That's pretty deep nerd.
Warhammer 40K.
Yes,
Yeah, that's pretty
40K
nerdy.
is
I don't even know what that is.
It's
ask
fantastic.
Henry Cavill.
It's
That's true. Yes.
Absolutely correct.
That Henry
No,
Cavill,
if
he's
you're doing
hot.
something that Henry Cavill's doing, you're living life right.
Henry Cavill is a good man.
Henry Cavill is a
Yes, sir.
fantastic
Well,
man.
if Henry Cavill does it, maybe I need to check it out.
It's a good
Yeah.
time. You should. It can consume you though. Be careful.
I mean, if it's
But
good enough for Superman, it's good enough for Bill.
That's true.
absolutely.
That's true. That's true.
You're starting
Star
to-
Trek is spectacular. I love Star Trek. Happy to be here for the conversation this evening.
All right, cool. All right, you're up.
Josh, 44, old friend of Rob. Rob, I did finish an audiobook today, so.
Oh,
so I'm
nice.
lazy,
What was your
but,
audiobook?
It was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is the prequel to
Yes.
The Hunger Games.
Yes.
It's
Solid?
good. Yeah, I guess there's a movie coming out next year, so I need to prepare for
There is,
myself
there
for
is.
it. So, yep, love audiobooks, love podcasts. I do lean on the Star Wars side of things, but I do really enjoy Star Trek. I kind of grew up, I was more the movie Star Trek guy rather than the show Star Trek. But
I can understand
so I'm
that.
trying to remedy that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Bunch of audiobook listeners, I like it.
Yeah, I know. You're up.
All right, I'm Pamela.
Hi, Pam.
Hi. I'm representing the female.
How old are you?
Real age or 34.
Okay.
Are we allowed to ask that question?
Yeah,
You
can.
just
She's
did.
the young one. She's the young one in the group.
34. Nerd resume. Definitely strong Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Oh, I love Harry Potter.
Okay.
Huge into podcasts, huge into audiobooks.
Okay. Very cool.
Pamela, what's your favorite Harry Potter movie?
Oh God, movie or book?
Yeah, that was the wrong question there, Bill. What's your favorite book?
What's your favorite book?
My favorite book is Prisoner of Azkaban, the worst movie by far.
Oh, Prisoner of Azkaban is an
No,
incredible book.
that's a great movie.
That is my favorite
Gary
book. and
Oldman.
movie.
Compared to the book,
Prisoner of Azkaban is the best book and the best movie.
I don't care. It's still Gary Oldman.
Prisoner
No.
of Azkaban is the only movie I saw in theaters.
Beautiful. No, I love. Okay, Prisoner of Azkaban book, movie. I'm gonna say Order of the Phoenix movie.
Order of the Oh, that's a good one.
More important question, what's your favorite podcast?
The one, this one.
Okay, good answer.
Office
good
Ladies.
Answer. Office Ladies.
Oh, that's a good answer.
That is a good answer. I
Or
don't know.
anything true crime.
Yes.
There's a Mars Hill one that Leslie is super into that's really good. And I don't know if you know what Mars Hill is, but it was an evangelical super church that basically tanked because their leader was kind of a dirtbag. There's a whole documentary about it, and they just released new episodes on
We
it.
used to go to a school that had one of those.
Ah, well, there you
I
go.
used to go to Mars Hill Church.
Did you really?
I really did.
No way.
When Rob Bell was the pastor there.
So you went to the Grand Rapids
Yes,
one.
I did.
That's a different one.
Different Mars
You
Hill.
interviewed for the
sorry.
podcast.
Different
Yeah,
Mars.
talking about the Seattle Mars Hill. Yeah.
But that's an interesting point because I did know people who went to that church too. And when Rob Bell released his books about heaven and hell,
Yeah.
man, They ate him alive.
There's
no hate like Christian love, right?
It was a schism, to say the least.
Yeah, it was.
I'm going to look this guy up. Never heard of him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Rob Bell?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. He was huge. He wrote books. One of his books was basically like his belief that there's no real version of hell, that all people are inherently good, and that God is so grace-filled that why would God punish people? They don't have the full truth.
And that's not a good viewpoint, or
well, for people who want people in and out of the club, it's not.
It was
and when you
very-
believe in human justice,
It was very contrary to sort of as Nick said, the ideology that no, we're good people, we follow these rules, so we get this reward, and you're not, and so you have to go and be in this bad place where there's gnashing of teeth and wailing, and Rob said, no, bullshit, that's not real, that's not how God would be, and people were really pissed off about that.
and they're like, how dare you? I
So he
spent 5 minutes reading my Bible, and you spent years researching it. Who do you think
so
you
he
are
was
to tell me?
chastised for those books?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've basically had this discussion on this podcast a number of times where people are inherently good, or at least
Or
me and
inherently
Rob
bad.
think they're
Yeah,
good. Nick
yeah.
thinks everybody's garbage.
People suck.
No, I don't. I think people. Well,
part
that's
of the job.
But that's part of it. There are people like Rob. Like, part of the argument was people believe that people are inherently bad, or Rob Bell believes people are inherently good. And what side is God on? What side does God represent?
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to have to ask, like, what has my standpoint been on that so I can reference it back, because I think I'm about to contradict myself.
Okay,
I think people are inherently good, though,
right?
and they're corrupted.
Because the world makes us bad. Because the world sucks.
And if that's not the opinion that I've had before on this
It isn't.
podcast, then we're going to have to go back and edit.
Well, you know what, Joe?
We're gonna do some voiceovers.
You reserve the right to be inconsistent as you become more enlightened.
Ooh, I don't like Bill on this
And by
podcast because
like,
he's
you
taking
mean,
he's taking his
inebriated.
side.
Yeah. Whatever
All right.
works for you.
But no, I do think that people are inherently good and are become jaded
All right.
by their surroundings, their upbringing, the amount of time they spend on Earth, which is basically a hellscape at this point.
Basically, so much.
And if you don't make it out with a good perspective, I don't think anyone's going to hold it against you.
Right. I don't know.
It's not good right now. We're end of times.
No, don't talk like that, because then you start
They're
sounding like those
releasing
people
a
that do
Happy
talk
Meal
like that.
for adults, Nick.
That was phrased,
I can't wait.
phrased
Sign
really
me
well,
up.
Nick.
I can't wait for the adult Happy Meal. First day,
Oh, my
I'm there.
Adult
I'm
Happy
having
Meal?
an adult.
Yeah, you didn't hear about that?
Up.
No, all I heard about was the buckets that they're bringing back, and I'm pumped for those Halloween.
Bill
They're
and I
bringing the
just
buckets back?
cheersed each other.
Like, in 2
For those who
weeks.
can't
Don't they
see.
bring those back
Oh, wait,
every
hold
single
on,
year?
hold on.
No.
The
They
Halloween
haven't done
buckets,
that
I'm
since, like-
behind.
Yeah, they haven't done that
The
since,
adult
like,
Happy
the-
Meals, I'm not.
Okay.
Wait, why?
Order a value meal like an adult and move on with your life.
I want my toy.
Who do you
They
think
can
you
put-
are, and what gives you the right?
But maybe they're just
First of
renaming
all-
value meal to Happy Meal because it makes you happy.
Yeah. Like, who are you? It's semantics, man. Are you arguing over
Correct.
semantics?
Just order a Happy Meal, hate yourself, or order a value meal, hate yourself, and move on.
I do. All
I'd
right.
rather order a Happy Meal, hate myself.
If you know what, they can just stuff it all into a box and then put like a SpongeBob toy in there for you.
As long as I get the toy, that's all I need. I want the toy.
Yeah, but here's
I know
my
what a Big
question.
Mac
I
is,
don't know.
right?
The
question.
McDonald's I go to is outside of the parking lot of Target. I get a value fry and buy myself a toy at Target.
yes.
So here's
Happy Meal.
Here's why I'm sort of for the Happy, because I think they're going to give vintage Happy Meal toys
Oh, that's amazing.
with
They are. The first toys are vintage.
Like
Yeah.
the Hamburglar and all that?
Yeah.
that
That's
type of shit.
amazing.
Why are you fighting
Why
this?
would, you can't
Because
get that
it
in a value meal.
represents the end game of American consumerism.
Okay. Sign me up.
This is Rome all over
We
again.
already
It's
knew this
over.
was a sinking
Brand
ship
circuses.
years ago.
It's over.
We knew this was a sinking ship years ago. Just jump aboard and start playing the violin like they
Right,
did
so
on
we're
the
all gonna be
Titanic.
drowning, holding our vintage McDonald's toys above the water.
Hey, Joe.
as we just sink lower.
You know there's
Some of
a
them were
segment on the show
flotation
called Toy Time with Joe, right?
Well, I know, and on future Toy Time with Joe's, I will be reviewing the
All
adult
right.
Happy Meal toys.
All right. So we could argue with this all day, but I feel like it's really important to start with a good warm-up question, one that really gets to the heart of your soul and tells me what kind of person you are. All right?
Oh boy.
So my question for you is, you are in a room all alone. All of a sudden that door opens and you're told you have to fight for your life. and all of a sudden a stream of 5-year-old children starts coming through that door. Rabid 5-year-olds are coming through there.
Just countless amounts of them.
And they're coming through that door, and they're coming through that door. But if you do not defeat these 5-year-olds, you will die.
They're rabid?
Rabid 5-year-olds.
5-year-old rabbits.
How many
Listen,
5-year-olds
I
are
just
you
get up on a
taking
shelf.
in a fight?
If they're rabid, I get up on a shelf.
I'm
wait for
not
the rabies
asking
to
you.
take
You've
over,
been
they
asked
die.
this question. You are done. How many 5-year-olds are you taking on in a fight?
Nick, I can confidently say all of them.
All
You
of them.
cannot beat all of them.
Exactly.
There's no
See?
way.
Me and
You'd
Bill
get
are on the same
exhausted.
page.
Tell me about this, Bill.
You know what? They're 5-year-olds. So you just slap them in the face and start crying and move on to the next one. You don't even have to hurt them.
But they're
Thank you, Bill.
rabid, man. They're rabid. Like
They're annoying.
ready
Have you been to a
fight.
kindergarten class?
Well, you slap them twice.
Oh my
Take my
gosh.
belt off. Like, don't make me use this.
We can use weapons now?
Well, you have a belt
You said
on.
we're fighting for our life. Why wouldn't I use a weapon?
I guess that's true. So you can take all of them. So you're saying 55-year-olds storm through that door and you defeat every single one of those 5-year-olds?
Easily.
5,500
No.
5-year-olds.
Yeah, so
come
when
through that
when,
door, I
when
would
Bill
defeat
says
every
all
single
of
one
them, I think all of them.
All of them.
All
There's
of
no
them.
chance.
Literally every 5-year-old
Globally,
ever.
Yes.
all the 5-year-olds.
Send me your
You
5-year-olds.
think the
I don't care where
world
from.
of
So
5-year-olds?
really, at this point, Bill, it just really becomes a matter of endurance, right?
Yes.
Completely
That's exactly what it
confident that
is.
You can take any 5, but eventually you're going to start to get tired.
Well, here's what's going
And
to
much
happen.
like a real 5-year-old
He's
that
got
you
the
might
flight.
have at your
If
house,
he's-
they will wear
That's
you
what I'm
down.
talking
Exactly.
about.
5-year-olds I see every day. And here's what's going to happen, though. And I don't care if they're rabid. First couple of kids see what I do to their friends, they're going to back off.
Yes.
But
Oh,
logic doesn't
psychological
go into
warfare.
rabidness.
Well, here's the
Survival
flaw.
does.
Here's the flaw in your logic is 5-year-olds
Oh.
don't pay attention to shit, so
That's true.
they're not going to know anything.
As a man without children, coming from a man who has children, good point.
Okay.
They're not going to pay attention. The other thing is, if he's flying all over the world, he's got those flights to recover. If he's flying from New York to Tokyo,
To fight the kids?
he's got however many hours to recover.
No,
The
you're
kids-
you're
the
locked in a
kids come to
room.
you. The kids come to you.
Wait a second.
they
That
on
wasn't the question. Was you're in a room, door opens, never.
And
You're in
never
Ford
ending
Field.
stream.
Never-ending
How many
stream.
until you're done, man? How many until you're overwhelmed?
So really, it's just a numbers game at this point.
Yes.
All of them.
This is sort of like how many licks does it take to get to the center of a
stand
Tootsie
by
Roll
my-
Pop?
3.
Sort of thing?
I said what I said.
I'm telling you, it takes 4 kids because they latch on your leg.
There's no way
one
it's
on
4.
Each leg,
It's more
one
than
on
4.
Each arm.
I'm concerned that you can't beat up more than 4 5-year-olds.
I have diabetes. Okay, no, I don't.
No, it's George R. R. Martin.
Yeah.
Did you
that
give
is-
yourself that?
We got 2
All right.
quiet ones here.
All right, what do we got? How many children are you taking?
All right. Well, as probably the resident former elementary
help you out.
education.
Oh, sorry,
teacher,
sorry.
It's okay. I'm thinking I probably will be taking out the one that I kick away as I'm trying to climb out the window, and then the rest grab me. And I'm thinking like that Kramer episode in Seinfeld where he gets pulled down by all the kids
Oh,
every
my.
Friday. That's me. I'm
Yes.
taking down one as I kick away, but they all grabbed onto me, and
They get you.
I'm done.
And
One.
see, and I
get one.
appreciate your opinion as a
Yeah.
former teacher. You
Yep.
understand what it's
Yeah.
like.
I've seen a room in chaos. It's not pretty.
Yeah, when those kids are rabid, when they're really feeling it, you don't have
Well,
a
you
chance.
didn't
That's
say they
just
all
30
had
kids,
rabies.
you know. So
I mean, not rabies, but they're fired up.
That's a rabbit is.
They just
they do have
pounded
foam at their
those
mouth
pixie
sometimes. I've
sticks.
seen
They were told they can't have their screen time until they take you out.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, reframe it as a 5-year-old who has just had their iPad taken away, and I can probably take 3 of those.
That's a good point, too. That's a good
Take
point.
the iPad and say, here you go, and throw it in the other room. And then you run the other way.
Pam, how many 5-year-olds are you taking
So
on?
here's the thing. I don't know if I could put a number. I mean, I just do the mom thing.
Oh,
I turn
what's the mom thing?
The mom look. Where you
The
whip your
mom
head
look.
around, you just do one of these.
But
That
they're
ain't- it's not
rabid.
gonna
That
work.
doesn't work on rabid.
They don't know
Yeah.
you. They're rabid.
Listen.
They're barreling through.
Listen.
Pam's
my
gonna give them
kids are
juice
right.
boxes.
Here you
Yeah.
go.
Here, sit down.
You're talking about your kids. We're talking about rabid kids. Kids that
I'm gonna say
are raised by wolves.
that's tough.
Yeah,
I
right?
just want to hug them all.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Oh, come on.
They'd be
I'll say
eating
10.
your
I'll say
neck
10.
and
I'll say
killing
10.
you and-
10?
What you
10?
do is you give them juice boxes first, then you beat them up
Yes.
while they're distracted.
Who get
While
their
they're
bellies
distracted.
full.
No, ring
Animal
pops.
crackers and juice boxes.
You know?
Juice boxes. Oh.
Juice boxes and ring pops.
Juice boxes and ring pop. Oh god, ring pops, the worst thing
I'm
ever.
about
You
to bust
thought
through
they
that
were a
door.
great idea until your finger was all
Oh no, my
sticky.
kids love them. The only thing that holds them down.
Oh, but then your finger's all sticky.
Dear Diary.
Off your finger. That's what she said.
Oh gosh. I'll drink to that.
Yep.
All right, Mike is in deep, deep thought for this one. He really is.
Well,
He's
so
visualizing beating up 5-year-olds.
I'm trying to do some math in my mind
I
here.
can respect a man that takes deep thought into beating up children.
I think I could dispatch a 5-year-old pretty reliably in about 10 seconds.
How many?
10 seconds. Like one, an individual.
One. In 10 seconds. Okay.
But I also just started running again, and I can only run about 30 minutes before I'm gassed.
Okay.
Right? So I'm thinking of this as an exercise in stamina, right?
Okay.
So at one kid every 10 seconds, but I'm only able to really go 30 minutes.
Is 30 minutes a long time?
I don't think so.
I feel like if I
think
could
I'm
last,
kind of-
if I could last like,
6 kids a minute.
6 kids
That's
a minute.
36 kids an hour.
Yep.
if I could last 2 minutes, I feel like
No.
that's a really long time, right?
6 kids a minute.
Times
Math,
60 is
Joe.
360 kids an hour.
Half of that, 180.
You're picking it up.
Yeah, I got what
Half
you're
an
saying.
hour. I think I could last before they just overwhelmed me.
Okay.
I think 180 kids.
180.
185-year-olds.
I like the number.
That.
Before
I feel like-
I'm overcome.
I feel like you got to factor in the psychological element of this, of you pounding 5-year-olds in the face. At some point,
I can do it, no problem. None at all.
you're a sociopath.
Yeah, but here's the thing. At some point, those 5-year-olds aren't going to be able to climb over the mound of
Thank
bodies
you. Yeah, I was just about to say that.
that I have
Those
left.
kids like climbing hills.
They do.
It still takes some time to climb
they
the hill,
play
though.
King
That's
of the
just gonna
Hill
slow 'em
for
down, though.
fun.
I know.
They push each other from the tops of hills.
So if you're saying 180 kids, by 50 kids, you're basically playing King of the Hill, right?
Yeah.
And you're standing on a mound of 5-year-olds, which is awesome. And then you're just beating up the ones that come at the top. That's 500 kids right there.
I like to think that you're grabbing one of them and just swinging them around.
How tired would you get at that point, though? Swinging the kids around like that? You're gonna
No.
get
That's
tired.
what I'm saying. 30 minutes. That's all I got.
No, but they're not. Are they all? No, are they all the same size?
No, they're randoms.
Well,
So then you take the lightest kid and you start swinging.
Use them as a baseball bat.
Josh,
listen,
as an
some
elementary
of us
school
have thought
teacher,
about this.
what's the lightest kid weigh?
5-year-old?
5-year-old?
5-year-old.
25 pounds,
Yeah,
maybe.
that's about right. That's pretty close.
no, like 40.
40 or
What?
50.
No, I'm not swinging. Listen,
Hey,
there's a,
we're going to the expert opinion here.
I have an 8-year-old who weighs 44 pounds. A 5-year-old? Come on. Now my kid's kind of small, so.
if you're saying they all vary, I'm going to take the lightest kid and start swinging. There's some kid that doesn't eat anything. It's like Fruit Loops and Capri Suns. That kid weighs 22 pounds, and I'm going to start swinging him.
That is true.
I still got hard heads.
It's not a bad point. It's not a bad point.
I kind of feel like we beat this one to death.
I feel like the important thing is this is all hypothetical.
No actual children were harmed.
No
in
children
the
were harmed.
Production of this podcast.
And a majority of this podcast probably likes children.
I love
majority.
children.
I love children.
They're delicious.
I have a
They're
couple.
awesome.
Who said they're delicious?
That wasn't me.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. That was me.
All right.
I don't eat kids. They're awesome.
Are you ready for your first deep Star Trek question, folks?
Absolutely.
All right. So here's your first question. So Gene Roddenberry is the creator of Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry was a man who believed in an idealized version of the world where someday that humans would evolve past the point of conflict. So one of his rules for the television show was that there was no longer able to be any interhuman conflict. So in other words, I could not have an argument with Rob. Rob couldn't have an argument with me. If Rob wanted to have an argument with another alien, he could, but never with other humans because we had advanced past that point. Now, my question is, do you believe humans will ever get to that point where we've moved past conflict with one another? Do you believe that's possible?
I think that there are different types of conflict, right? I think that maybe what you were trying to describe, or maybe what Roddenberry's vision was physical conflict, because there was absolutely interpersonal conflict within the Star Trek universe, right?
Nope.
There were arguments.
There's debates between.
But there was an extreme physical conflict across the Star Trek universe, early
And
Star Trek universe.
I think Roddenberry's vision really came in the Next Generation, where they'd have debates, but they never argue.
So, and that's the thing. If you watch the original Star Trek, they always get along. If you watch the Next Generation, they get along for the first 2 seasons. And then the 3rd season, it starts to shift where they start having disagreements.
So they were
and that's
married.
when the show gets better. And that's because Roddenberry, I think, was taken out of it. Like, he
Yeah.
was the executive producer, and they removed him.
He started to get sick.
He was sick, so he couldn't be a part of it. So then they started sneaking in things.
So my thing would be, as long as there's free will, there's going to be conflict.
Correct.
Well,
As
you
long
think-
as free will exists,
keep in mind
there's
that
going to be conflict.
that the best Star Trek show was Deep Space Nine, and they had all kinds of interpersonal conflict in that show. Bashir and O'Brien didn't, well, not so much with Bashir, because he liked O'Brien, but O'Brien couldn't stand Bashir. when
Well,
they first
O'Brien's
met
a
him.
racist jerk.
They eventually
And
became
Bashir
friends,
was
but he
single,
couldn't stand
and
him at first.
He was hella married.
Yeah.
And he hated that.
Dax would screw with Odo all the time, moving his furniture around.
Oh, there
But they're not
nice
human.
ref.
They don't count.
But that doesn't
all
count.
right, all right,
Yeah.
I get it.
So
all right.
you would count like, just the human characters. So like other people could argue, but the humans were not allowed to argue.
I mean, here's the thing. Even after Bashir and O'Brien became friends, they still had arguments every once in a while.
Oh yeah.
Remember, they had a big blow up. I forgot what mission they were on, but O'Brien basically disobeyed Bashir's orders.
Oh, yeah.
And Julian was pissed.
Yeah.
He got over it, but he wasn't happy with him.
The
Well,
medical
what about
plan.
so? All right, Star Trek, right? So what about First Contact? I think it's First Contact, where Picard is going after the Borg, right? And
The
I
line
don't
must be
remember.
drawn here.
Yes, and well, no, even beyond that, later in the movie, where the gal who's from Earth in that time period is arguing with him and trying to convince him that he is effectively Captain Ahab going after his Moby Dick.
But his PTSD came through and overtook him.
So let me
but
give.
there's still conflict.
All right, let me give you. Okay, so their example they're giving, I'm going to explain it to the non-Star Trek people. All right,
I'm
they
listening.
travel back in the past 300 years. They go back in the past where humans were like at war and fighting all the time, and their enemy follows him, and Picard really has it out for this enemy. He wants to kill this enemy at all costs, no matter what. And the person, the human from Earth, which was always at war, was basically like, dude, we've seen what this does. This is bad. And he insisted on continuing to do it. So that was like the whole argument with them. Personally, I feel like you can get around that one because this wasn't a human from the evolved place. So this was a person giving it back to him. And again, if you have PTSD, this enemy did really terrible things to him. So he hated these people. I think
So are you pro?
no matter how advanced, I don't know. I don't know.
Nick having a dissertation to say nothing.
I'm trying to explain what happened to the non-Star Trek people.
Well, and really, if I could, I think what we've been trying to do is find examples where we're proving that wrong, right? Which isn't the question. The question, I think, was, is it possible to live in a world where humans wouldn't have conflict?
Yes.
So hold on. So let's say that conflict evolves away, right? And let's equate conflict to good or conflict to bad and no conflict to good.
Okay.
If everything is only good, does bad get redefined? Can you have good without bad? Does good exist without bad?
I don't believe that it does.
So then conflict is necessary.
I think
agree.
that you don't have movement without friction.
Right. So then it's
Conflict is
necessary. And
necessary.
As long as you're not erasing free will, you're going to have conflict eventually. Somebody's going to think differently than you, and you're going to say, I disagree with that. That might not be like butting heads, but that's a conflict. If somebody disagrees with you and you have a discussion, that's a conflict.
Yeah.
If it's Nick, he'll tell you you're wrong and you're an idiot.
Yeah. It's true.
I've been on this podcast 2 years. I agree with that.
I've known Nick about 10 years.
When they were talking about conflict, I think it was more like a heated conflict where people could still disagree and they come to a resolution. The conflict I'm thinking about is like you're like right now, Republican, Democrat, church, not church. That kind of conflict where you're a Democrat, so I don't like you.
Partisan stuff.
Yeah, partisan.
Where you
can't come to some kind of mutual understanding.
and it leads to actual conflict.
Yeah.
So like the whole point was humans don't have wars against one another anymore. That's gone.
yes.
So maybe that's the better way to word it.
So you're defining conflict as something super, like, major.
A negative.
Whereas
Substance.
I'm thinking it's like I could disagree with somebody on a point, and to me that's conflict.
yeah, you're too far in the weeds.
No, I think the crux of the question lies on what the definition of conflict is, right? Because conflict is good. I think that the intent is that conflict get to the point of physical altercation and physical damage
It's great.
is what Roddenberry was trying to scope away from.
The question
But-
is,
but
how many
conflict
kids,
is
how
good.
many 5-year-olds could Roddenberry beat up?
None, because he wouldn't fight him.
What a baby.
He doesn't believe.
He doesn't believe. So what do you two believe? Can we ever evolve past conflict?
No, I agree with the point on free will, and I don't know, for some reason the scene in Star Trek 6 is coming to my mind when Spock
Some of
and
us
Kirk,
haven't seen it.
when
You need to. That's
it's the best one.
probably one of the best.
Spoiler
Star Trek
alerts, it's been out 40
Yeah,
years.
it's the best one.
40
But there's the disagreement scene where Spock agrees to be speaks for the Enterprise to be the envoy for the Klingons, and Kirk just gets very upset about it,
Yeah.
and he's like, don't believe him, don't trust him, and he starts like, he's like, you should have trusted me, and he's angry, like, so, but it's a disagreement, and I'm thinking that maybe it's the disagreements, if they continue to be, they can lead to a conflict. So
Right.
I'm not sure if the disagreement actually is the conflict.
You know,
Right. 'Cause
Josh
their
talked about
friendship
Star.
is better than that, right?
I
Josh
cover
talked about
my
Star Trek
ears
6 gave me an
as to not
erection.
ingest any
Wow,
spoilers.
that's uncomfortable. That's uncomfortable. So you believe that we can move past conflict as humans, though?
As defined by that.
It's fine by that, but I agree with. I think as long as but I do agree. As long as there is free will, there will always be. It's just inevitable. Like unless we are robots programmed to think a certain way and live a certain way, there is always going to be conflict.
And I completely
There's
agree
6
with that.
words that I love hearing, and it's 2 things.
Gosh.
You're right,
Oh,
and I agree with you.
I
love
just
hearing
break a
those.
code here or
It's fun.
With Joe, he loves hearing he's right.
I'm gonna
I-
agree with Josh. With Josh.
Yeah, thank you. I had some tasteless jokes I could make. I'm deciding against them. I'm saving those for later.
Since when?
I don't know. I gotta save them.
Okay.
They're good.
For what?
Joe will appreciate them.
I will.
No.
I know you.
I love humor directed towards me.
So none of you believe. So wait, you do believe we can move past conflict, or we don't? We can't.
I
I don't believe we can move past conflict.
Well, and I think that maybe we've been dancing around framing that conflict isn't necessarily bad. Conflict can be good.
No, it can be. I mean, that's the whole point of this conversation. Even is there's conflict in this conversation. We're not agreeing with everything.
Oh, look at you.
I think we
Very
can get
meta.
past the point
Very
where we're
meta. I like
killing
it.
each other and fighting each other and fighting wars, but we're always going to have conflict. And people are always going to say, you know what, you're an idiot, not you. I'm just having a
Dang, Josh, he's calling
you're
you
an
out.
Idiot, screw you.
Wow, it's
But,
gonna-
we're always going to have that.
For the
Watch
record,
out.
he said that towards Nick, obviously.
Obviously, everyone does.
Obvious.
Everyone does. There's a part of me that believes we can move past it, but a lot of things would have to go right for that to
What
happen.
makes you think that there's a future where there's no conflict?
Because I believe people are inherently good, and I believe
What about our current state makes you believe that
sometimes
people are inherently
it's darkest before the dawn, my friend.
Why is conflict bad?
It's not bad. I'm talking about conflict in regards to war,
Ironically,
like
I
actual
think we could
loss
use a
of
little
life.
bit more conflict now.
Healthy conflict.
Healthy.
conflict.
That's the problem. We don't have healthy conflict, right? Conflict now. Like I was seeing this the other day. I was looking at the Twitter accounts of the current politicians running for Michigan governor, right? And again, I'm not saying what side I'm taking here. I think it's pretty obvious if you listen to the podcast what side I would take. But there's the one side
Nick
who's
doesn't
running
vote.
against our incumbent, who is Gretchen Whitmer. And I looked at their Twitter and like, okay, what do they represent? What do they represent? Every single post was just bashing what Gretchen Whitmer did. Crazy Gretchen did this. Crazy Gretchen. Crazy Gretchen. Every single post. There was nothing to tell me what you believed in. There was something to tell me what you think is wrong. And I think that's why conflict exists, because we've lost the ability to really take a step back and say, okay, I can think they're wrong, but why do I believe I have the right approach? And let me explain what my right approach is. We don't do that anymore.
So there's a video from some point in the 60s, I believe, and it's Mr. Rogers petitioning Congress
Yes.
for additional funding or to continue the funding for PBS. And he goes on this, I would say, 5-minute diatribe about what his program means to children, what his program means to PBS. This whole scope of what his program means in general. And he's speaking to, I believe it's a Republican senator.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, the Republican senator says, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, I didn't believe what you said coming into this, but you have presented such a compelling argument that you have changed my mind, and I
Right.
now agree with you, and I think this is a necessary thing.
Right.
And that sort of open-mindedness in politics is
Doesn't
long
exist.
gone.
Yeah, it's
like-
gone.
And I'm not speaking on either side. It's both sides. Everybody is on is wearing their team jersey. We're wearing red jerseys or blue jerseys, and if you don't play for my team, I'm not going to cheer
we're
for
kicking you
even,
out.
even if you have a good idea, like, oh hey, yeah, that's actually a really good idea,
Yeah,
but you're not wearing the right jersey, so I don't think so.
Well, it's like it used to be that you could have parties that you would have differing beliefs on issues such as abortion or healthcare and all that. Now it's like if you're not on board, you're out for both sides.
Yeah, certain issues have
And that's
become
cause-
staples of certain parties.
And that's caused now when there's a new president in office, we yo-yo back and forth. And I think that's what's so difficult in our country is we've lost this ability to compromise and come together. So instead, every 4 years, the rug is being ripped out from under us. So every 4 years, we're like, oh, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. And it creates conflict in this world.
Why do you think that's? And I'm not looking for a specific answer here, but why do you think maybe that has happened over the last 40 years, right? What changed from the 60s when
the internet.
When a Republican can hear something from Fred Rogers that he was not on board with and say, you know what, yeah, actually, hey, you convinced me that I agree with your perspective. We don't do that anymore.
I
Why?
think it's a lot more complex than this, but I think it is 100% as simple as this: the internet.
Internet and access to media
I think-
all
I
the
think-
time.
I think everybody having
News
access to
pushing their
everything all
agenda.
the time
Internet.
is
Clickbait.
ultimately not a good thing.
And you know why? Because people get in the echo chambers. They just
Yes.
listen to the people who agree with them and
Yep.
say what they want to hear.
They go on-
and they don't
they-
listen to anything else.
They go on message boards of people that agree with them, and that's all.
That's
They,
it.
everything. People don't understand that even down to the things that they Google are biased. Your Google, the way that you enter something in a search engine is already biased because
Does
your
George R.R.
your-
Martin have diabetes? And it says yes.
Yeah. But
Sorry,
so
inside joke.
George Carlin has a quote. It's, think of how dumb the average person is, and just imagine that half of them are dumber than that. That's what we're dealing with, and everybody has internet access.
Well, and so you know what? I'm picking up the thread that you're putting down here, and it makes me think a question: should everybody have a voice, right? And everybody does now
Well, I
because
thought about this all the time.
everybody has a platform. Anybody can have a platform for anything that they want to talk about or have an opinion about,
so
right?
are you equating a voice to a platform, though?
I'm equating a voice to a mechanism with which somebody can publicly express their opinion.
We've always had a voice, but we haven't always had a
to
platform.
mass audiences.
So we haven't always had that.
Right.
These
and
two could
that's
have their
what-
own show
and
together,
that's
folks.
what the internet, I think, has brought. And I don't think it's good. I don't think
Who
everybody
finishes
should
first?
have their own
Ultimately, it's
platform.
not good.
Pam is wearing the most awesome Freddie Mercury shirt, by the way, who is arguably one of the greatest musicians of all
Or just
time.
the greatest.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Ooh, hiss.
Wow.
I thought we were going to be
I would-
friends.
hold on. Would you consider him a musician?
Yes.
No, a singer.
No.
Well, singer-songwriter.
No,
He
he
could
was.
play-
he could
you
play.
know,
Yes,
he
was
composed
musician.
music in his while he was laying in bed with the piano.
You said it on Bohemian Rhapsody. It doesn't
Above-
mean it happened.
It did
It did
happen.
happen.
It
It
did
did?
happen.
It did happen.
Yes, it did. He was a phenomenal musician as well as an incredible
insanely-
frontman.
Would you
Great.
suggest that he's one of the greatest musicians
Yes.
of all time?
Yes.
But I
Okay.
would, I
I
would
would.
suggest, I would suggest that
He
he's a great
rivals
front,
Ron
one of the
Howard in
greatest
directing
frontmen
prowess.
That's
of
my
all
case.
time.
My only issue was that Nick said
That's
the
a
word
ter-
musician
Fair.
and not singer or
That's fair.
frontman.
Lawyered.
But see, I also think
Nice
that
with
a
a lawyer.
musician has the brain that will create absolutely beautiful art, and he had that. Like that's
Not
part
necessarily.
Right. Right.
of it. What do you mean not necessarily? Never mind. I can't. I'm not gonna yell.
That's-
I get all
that's
fired
a-
up and I get squeaky. I can't be squeaky.
That's the
No, you
purpose
can
of
be-
this.
That's the whole,
Yell at him.
Yeah.
That's okay. I can't do it without getting squeaky.
I think we can all agree that he was one of the greatest frontmen in the history
He's
of
my,
music.
he's my number one. Freddie Mercury
I
is my
could take
number
greatest.
one.
I could take greatest frontman. I understand the argument with greatest musician,
and I do think it's an argument.
Yes.
but I said one
Ooh,
of. I
conflict.
did not say the
Conflict.
greatest. I said one
That's
of.
my fault. I said the.
Oh, you said the greatest. Okay.
Yes. That's just me though.
Now, if you're going
Conflict.
with the greatest musician, it has to be Mozart. It has to be.
Ooh, I just cranked Beethoven's Fifth Symphony the other day.
Oh, total loser
Talk
move.
about banger.
Listen, guys, I was just listening to some
I'm not even lying.
I fell asleep
AC/DC,
for a
and I
second
was
there.
thinking that maybe.
What song? Oh, wait,
Bon
they're all
Scott
the
was-
same.
I'm not
Because
even,
they're all
That's
great.
fine.
When you perfect it, you just keep
You just lean
pumping it out.
into it, right? You lean into it.
I'm not even lying. I played 2 different versions of Beethoven's Fifth the other day. I'm like, which one's better?
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing
nothing
wrong
wrong
with
with
it. It's
that.
great.
It's the right audience
I
for
was
that.
proving to my kids that classical music is it's just in the ether, because I played it and they're like, oh, we know this, and they don't know it as Beethoven's Fifth, but they know the melody.
But that'd be like the equivalent of kids not knowing who the Beatles were, but they hear a Beatles song and they know the Beatles.
Yeah, like my boys hear like a Linkin Park song, and they're like, "Oh, Dad, this is a Minecraft song from YouTube," and I'm like, "No,
Oh my
sure
God.
it is."
It's
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
Transformers.
That's
Thank
what
you.
it is, really. So you know what's interesting when I think about great musicians, and we're getting a little bit off topic here, but
That happens.
That never happens.
I start to think about like Andrew Lloyd Webber or John Williams, right? How many scores have
Andrew
been
Lloyd Webber's-
conducted that fit beautifully to the situation that
Yeah.
it's intended to help expand, right? I don't know necessarily that you have to go classical for the greatest. I think that there are a lot of examples, or at least arguably some examples of fantastic musicians that are not, the classics.
Well, I think that's like the argument in sports that people make all the time when they're like, this player's the greatest of all time.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan's the greatest of all time.
Yes,
or
sir.
Tom Brady's the greatest of all time. They're the greatest
Meh.
of their generation.
No, Tom Brady, he's the greatest of all time. 6 rings, baby.
Well,
Boom.
he's been in like
6
9
rings.
different generations, so that kind of works.
How are those
Nearly-
defenses work for him?
Doesn't he have 7 rings?
Six rings. He's going for 7 this year, but the way Tampa
And
Bay's playing,
it's not going to happen.
though, if they keep murdering quarterbacks like they've been doing,
Oh, gee, yeah.
and we're not talking about Tua.
That's the other podcast.
And that was Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And that's for the other podcast. Okay. Anyways, off topic, but here's what I will say. I think you can chalk that up to.
Hold on, fact check. He has 7 victories.
No.
Yeah, he has 7.
2002, 2004, 2005, 2015, 2017, 2019, and 2021. That is 7 total victories.
I'm so happy to be wrong here.
Here's me not
Further
caring.
expound that the GOAT.
Here's me
7.
not caring.
He is 7-3, and he lost twice to the
The
Giants
dude
and
wore a
once to the
T-shirt
Eagles.
with his face on it to practice one day.
You don't do that?
Like,
I like my face.
it was like a face of him as a college kid. He wore it to practice. Like, could you imagine being that man's teammate?
Here's the thing.
First of all, he's basically your dad.
Could
'cause he's-
you, as a Lions fan, could you imagine getting to 1 Super Bowl, let alone 10, let alone winning 7 of them?
I
It's
don't.
unfathomable.
I don't. I can't imagine. It's not
I can
possible.
imagine a world with no conflict
it is
before I can imagine that as a Lions fan.
All right. So we can argue about that all day, but that would take us completely off topic because we never do that on here. But I got another one for you. So one of the things about Star Trek is it's about all these advanced technologies that they have, and a lot of these advanced technologies have become reality. For instance, they had tricorders that would allow them to communicate with communicators that allowed them to talk with one another. They used pads to write on, became iPads. They use all this technology. But there's some technology that hasn't come to pass yet. For instance, warp drive, where they can go to like far part of the universe instantaneously. There's replicators where they can just create food out of nothing. They can be like
3D printers.
3D printers.
Yeah. No, that's not. No.
It's the forebearer of.
It's a precursor.
We're on the
Or
path.
you have transporters where you can move matter from one place to the other.
Those are
Jason
murder
Statham?
machines.
3D printers are the
yeah,
model
really.
So-
of
Can you let me finish my damn question?
They gotta get there faster.
So mad.
All right.
So, do you see what we deal
preaching
with?
your sermon
on a
with that,
weekly
You
Miles?
have
knockout
warp
basis?
drive, which allows you to go far away galaxies.
Yeah.
You have transporters, which allow you to and it's not as far. Transporters could be like, I'm going to go from New York to Paris, like that, right?
So
or you
trains.
have replicators where you can be like, I want waffle fries, and boom, waffle fries. What technology do you think would be more important to the human race? What technology do you think would be like a game changer?
Like more important to the human race, it'd probably be warp drive.
Warp
'cause-
drive, definitely.
Yeah.
See, I don't know. I'm going to go against warp drive because we don't know what's out there yet. I think immediate, like short term, like next couple 100 years, Probably a transporter, right? If we eliminated transportation, we need aid to go to Florida right now because there's been a hurricane. Pop, 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 pop. Here's food and lumber and supplies.
But we
and all
wouldn't
that
even
stuff.
need to do that. We'd be like,
Immediately.
a hurricane's coming, boom, transport them out.
Very, very true, right?
Or we transport people to the hurricane.
Oh,
Or
yes.
transport
5-year-olds.
5-year-olds
To
to
Russia.
Russia. Hurricane.
How many 5-year-olds can take on a hurricane? A lot.
I'm biased. I work in
I say
logistics.
transporters.
I could see transporters changing the entire way that we do everything in this world.
Because I think that's the one we're furthest from, right?
No, they've figured out ways to transport single molecules. So
In Star Trek, though, doesn't it like destroy?
It's a-
and it
you're
recreates it.
killed
It's a death
every
machine.
time.
Yes, and then you're
That's why Bones doesn't like
recreated.
using them.
Right.
I'd never use one.
You've never they
I would
haven't
use
been
it in a
created.
heartbeat.
I would never use one.
I would. San Francisco going. Disney, see you there.
Well,
Oh my God, Disney would be insane.
Well, I just
There would be.
Well, that's fair too.
Yeah.
But,
That place would be busy.
Disney-
Fur.
Great,
think about
because
what's one of the current hot
transport
topics right
myself
now, like
I'm getting out of here.
climate
It's too
change and
crowded.
air pollution, and they're trying
Right.
to phase out gas cars. Transportation or transporters would solve that problem.
So you're going with that. You're going with transporters.
Imagine having the technology to get the hell out of any situation at any time.
Well, I'm really, really wise. I think it's the consensus that's coming from the
I disagree.
table right
What
now.
do
Disagree,
where are
too.
you at? Where are you at?
Isn't there something where it's like you can heal someone instantaneously?
Yeah, they do have that technology as
Yeah,
well.
thermal regenerators and all that.
Yeah, they do where they don't have to cut into
Yeah. So,
people
I mean,
for
if
that.
you can't be transporting anywhere if you're not alive.
See, I would go
Is
with.
anybody really alive, though?
Oh, shut
no,
up!
Stop it.
I would go with replicators. You instantly solve hunger. You never have to worry about hunger
We're
ever
almost there.
again. No,
Like
we're not.
Like I said,
We live in a capitalistic
Have you been to
world.
Africa, man?
Like I said, 3D
Have you been
printer-
to Kentucky?
3D printers are the Model A of replicators.
No, they're not. They're creating something
There's a
from
vast
something that's
difference
already
between
there.
A Tesla now and a Model A
A
100 years ago.
It's a replicator.
A
So
plastic-
in the Star Trek world,
It takes matter that exists out in the ether and it brings it together
it converts it,
and
right?
creates
Okay, so
Sounds a lot like a
as I
3D
understand,
printer to me.
as I understand it,
3D printer takes plastic filament and makes a plastic toy.
So it takes something that's out in the universe and creates
No,
something else.
something that already exists out in the universe that is already like.
I'm not saying
takes a
that
Joe's right.
anything
I'm
else.
Joe's
so angry at
definitely
you
right.
that I cannot think of.
absolutely correct. But here's the thing,
Sure,
right?
would you
I
eat
think
3D
that
printed fries?
we've already like the problem with hunger isn't that there's not enough food. There's
is
enough
enough.
food. There's definitely enough food.
Oh,
You know
there's
what?
more
There's a
than enough
problem is getting the food to where it needs to be,
Ooh, and
which
how
is
could-
a transporter
how could we do that?
solution
How could
problem.
we
Are you
do
two in
that?
love? I mean,
Transporters.
Oh.
Yes, transporters would definitely
Okay,
be how we
you
would
actually
make
have
that
Do we
happen.
need to transport more food, or do you need to replicate?
I don't
You
think we
actually
need to
have a
make
good-
any more food. We have enough food.
I
There's
could
so much
imagine
food
a
that it's
restaurant.
going to waste.
I could imagine a restaurant at the end of the night, instead of throwing it away, they immediately transport it to somewhere else that's 6 hours behind in the timeline, like in Africa, and then they can serve the food there.
And it's 8 billion people later. The food problem is solved. We're
Dang
good.
it.
Is Africa 6 hours behind us?
Yes.
It's in front of us.
It's
In front of us. Yeah.
yes. 6 hours ahead of us.
You need to fact check yourself.
I know.
Brady
Well,
has
and
6 rings, and you don't know what time zones are.
There's probably a range of
It
hours.
gets
that
very
it's in front of us.
confusing.
I'm going to stick with warp drive because I want to get the hell out of here. See ya.
See, I don't think warp drive
There's
is
got to be
that
another
important.
there's got to be another M-class planet out there. I can just like bye.
I don't think warp drive is that important. I
Are
don't
you
think it
saying
matters.
there's never been a situation where you're like, I would like to get the hell out of here right now?
right
But see,
now.
I think that like unless you root cause that
Leave,
though.
and you could leave, and then guess what? We'd be like, oh, and Nick's gone.
I'm taking over the show. Nick's gone.
That's a shame.
Well, we now have we have 4 new guest hosts, so
Yeah.
that'll work out well.
That room is going to get crowded.
It's going to get crowded. It gets hot in there.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those kinds of situations though where like if you don't solve problems and you just run from them, you're just gonna have the same problems eventually later, right? Getting out of here isn't a solution. Solving problems is a solution.
But I don't like people, so I would like to get out of here.
Problem solved.
Problem
Replicate a warp
solved.
core and then go where you want.
I'm
But you
out.
can't replicate a warp core that doesn't exist.
Yeah, but you could replicate like
Voyager did it.
Well, Voyager did a lot of dumb things.
you could replicate a phaser and just like take
Bill,
everybody
we
out.
don't talk about Voyager here.
Yeah, we don't talk about
But
Voyager.
the phaser would have to exist.
For good reason.
It does.
To replicate it, you'd have to have the schematics for it.
Okay, then I'm going to replicate a Smith & Wesson.
I just feel like if a replicator, because it's not only just about food, it's about other stuff as well. Like, I need clothes.
I
can
think you want to replicate.
clothes.
What do you want? What's this about? What do you really want to replicate, Nick?
A happy life. No.
Happy meals.
Happy meals.
Adult happy meals.
Adult happy meals.
Children.
No, we don't want more of those.
Non-stop 5-year-olds are screaming out of that replicator. How many children are you taking on? Keep in mind, they're replicated children, so they're not real children.
Oh, good. That
In that case, I can't beat them all.
You can't beat them all?
No.
Oh.
As long as I know there's an end point. But if it's just like
Never
replicators
ending.
a never
Well,
ending
that's a good point.
line
on
of
that
kids,
argument.
I'm dead.
That's a good point, because if it's 100 children, sorry, I'm backtracking. But if
Jesus,
it's 100 children, but you don't know it's going to be 100 children, you might get tired out at 50.
Yeah.
But if it's 100 children and you know it's going to be 100 children and you get to 50, you're like, I just got to keep pounding these kids.
You have to answer the question
You'll
as
fight
if
through it.
there's an endless stream of children.
Yes, agreed.
What point can you get to?
That's why I went with math.
Yeah, it's not.
It's what I think I can
feel
do.
like this
The
is not a
question
good
isn't, can
podcast
you
because I'm
beat-
getting proved wrong on everything.
The question isn't can you beat up all of them, it's how many can you beat up.
It's great,
You're under
it's
the
good.
assumption that
It's
there's
great.
an endless stream
I'm
of
sticking
children.
with my wound
and
healer
what point
thing.
can you
We all have
I
limitations.
I like that, though,
just
that
gotta
dermal
kinda box
healer.
in where yours
Exactly.
are.
More importantly, I never answered the question. At first, I said,
Come on, Bill.
The warp core, the warp drive. But I'm actually switching my answer. I think I'm going with replicators because it
Wasn't there a
wouldn't
third
solve.
option?
Y'all
or
are
no?
flip floppers.
It wouldn't solve every problem,
Replicators,
but it
warp
would
drive,
solve a lot of
transportation.
problems. I'm going replicators.
You think replicators would solve more problems than transporters?
Yes.
You don't need to
Medical
transport if you
supplies.
have replicators.
That's true.
Boom.
You would
Oh.
need
I take my
supplies
answer
if you
back.
had-
I'm going back to
You don't need
replicators.
to replicate if you have transporters.
That's also true.
But then replicators allow you an unending supply of stuff. Transporters don't. You still need the power to use transporters, which you do for replicators
You know,
as well.
hey, listen, people still need to have a livelihood, right? I'm for people, and so I like the idea of the giving people jobs and having them do their work, and we
I
can
thought
just
this was
transfer.
Could you
Words
imagine-
for you, Mike. Replicator repairman.
Could you imagine the protests when, like, you have all the the taxi drivers and like the pilots on the corner with their picket signs? It's like the equivalent of what happened at grocery stores when the self-checkout occurred. They're like, you're putting people out of work. I'm sticking with replicator. I think replicator is more groundbreaking
I
than
don't think
transportation.
there's a wrong answer.
No, I think you're right.
I think warp drive is a wrong answer.
Nope.
Well, I think
I'm sticking
you're
with
the
it.
wrong answer.
Oh!
What about a technology that Star Trek has, or like a future technology, whether it be Star Wars for you Star Wars people, that'd be detrimental?
Invisibility
Replicators.
cloaks.
The Jedi Council. Oh wait, that's not technology.
A weapon literally called the Death Star. I feel like that's not good for the world.
I say holodecks.
That's
No, but
a
you're-
coincidence.
You're looking for technology that
A replicator.
Like actual technology?
Replicator would be awful. Everybody having access to anything they want all the time.
Oh my God! Can you imagine how heavy people would be?
Just okay.
Just Cheetos, more
because
Cheetos.
The
I need more
replicators
Cheetos.
is healthy.
So
Yeah, it's all healthy food.
Give me
so there's
200
strengths
diet
now on the
pills.
replicator.
No, that's what it is. In
No,
Star
it's
Trek.
100%,
Like,
yeah.
The alcohol
I
isn't
did not know
actually
this.
alcoholic. Like you can have cheesecake, but it's not full
But
of the
listen,
fat.
so-
It just
So
Interesting. I hate it more now.
What we're dealing with now is the internet, but that's only giving information and access to information. So imagine if they had access to actual tangible items that they're thinking about. We've seen what damage the internet can do. The internet is basically a replicator in theory.
yes.
A replicator in actuality would be 100 times more detrimental.
What are you worried about that people would replicate?
Wouldn't it eliminate any like fashion
Anything.
would be gone, right?
But I'd say the holodeck.
I'm talking about
Holonet.
basically
think about
strictly talking about weapons now. So anybody who has access to a replicator has access to any weapon they want, and that's not good.
I'm
Because
sure
there's
there'd
a
be
lot of-
restrictions on it.
I don't
Because
know.
that's what I mean, even in Star Trek they do that. Like they can't replicate certain things
But you
unless they
didn't-
have
you
clearance.
didn't mention that. We're talking like
I mean, everything. Well, that goes with like regulating things because in Star Trek they don't have to regulate it because they've advanced past that point where people
So
aren't
they're
like,
gonna regulate
I
the
want to
war-
replicate a gun to kill my wife who made me angry in this
okay.
argument.
So basically, what we have now though is
I don't know why I went
I
right
feel
to that.
that.
That's uncomfortable.
Nick, do we need to hear
So
something?
what we have now is a regulated transporter, right? We have ways to transport people from one place to another in a regulated fashion.
Well, and you can almost say that Amazon is pretty close to a replicator at this point, right? Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
I
You
need
can order stuff and have it there in
mountain bike
hours.
shorts, and it's there 3 hours later,
But you
right?
pay
Like-
for it. What if it's free?
Well, that's a different question. Now we're getting into the economy of what Star Trek is, right? Which is not what we were talking about. We were talking about
No,
different types of
that-
technologies.
Dang it.
So are there tiers? Are there tiers of access?
Oh, like you,
replicators,
I have the
like what can-
1995 plan, so I can only replicate Walmart brand shorts.
It's like being a patron.
I get
of the show.
$29.95, so they're Target brands. Yeah, buddy.
That's like Patreon, right?
Yeah, it is like
There's
Patreon.
certain tiers you get certain access to certain things. That's what it would be like. You would
So that would just create a whole new version of classism at that
Yes.
point.
exactly.
Yes.
It's a software update. No
But
problem.
wouldn't transportation do the same thing? Like, there wouldn't be money in it for a company like Amazon
I think that-
to transport food to Africa to feed hungry children. There's
Nope.
nothing financially
I think
beneficial
it's
for them.
short.
Oh, Amazon would definitely fight against the replicators.
Oh,
Yeah,
for sure.
they'd be out of work.
Well, they'd fight,
Oh,
against the
no, they wouldn't,
transporters too,
because
right?
they would transport the object right in your house.
unless
They would-
unless
they could
Amazon
basically
owned the
fire all
transporters.
their workers. Like, they
They'd
would
be all
love
for
that.
the transporters, but they
They already
hate the
treat their
replicators.
workers like garbage. Might as well lean into it, right?
Unless they owned all the replicators.
I think the short answer is any sort of technology advancements that you put into effect now are going to get exploited. We're talking hypothetical in the future, in this existence where everybody's sort of like okay with one another.
Yeah.
I'd be scared shitless to introduce any sort of new technological advancements that makes any sort of tangible difference in anybody's lives with the way that the world is currently.
Can you imagine your grandpa trying to work a replicator? Ah!
Well, this segues
Double
really.
tap, Grandpa.
This,
Double tap it.
This segues really well into another question I have. So in Star Trek, they have this thing called the Prime Directive, which basically says that when they're traveling through the galaxy, if they experience other cultures that have the technology of warp drive, they can interact with them. But if they have not advanced to the point where they have the technology of warp drive, they're not allowed to interact with them. They just have to keep on traveling, keep on moving. Is that a noble thing to do, or is that actually more harmful?
Well, you don't want to interfere with the natural progression of that species. It's kind of important to know that, too, for this argument.
No, not really, because no.
I think in theory, the Prime Directive is a great idea in application, and we've seen it across several episodes of Star Trek where in application, it doesn't really work. Because, you're always going to have human nature where if I see an asteroid about to hit this planet full of 18th century monks, I'm going to want to stop it. But the Prime Directive says, no, this is the natural evolution of this society. They were doomed to die, and you're supposed to let them die. So in theory, it's great. In application, not so much.
Well, so let's say someone comes from another world here right now in our society with their advanced technology. We couldn't handle it. There's no way we can handle
Who
that
are
right
you
now.
to determine we can handle it or not? Though?
I'm telling you right now, we couldn't handle it.
But who
Give
are
me
you?
all their technology. I would
I'm the
take
There
guy-
are people in this world who could handle
There are
it.
people, but
No.
who would get it?
Give me a transporter.
Like if we give
Let's
Joe a
see how
replicator
things
right
go.
now,
There are
I don't want to know
people
what he's
still
doing with it.
dial-up, so I'm going to say no.
That's true. There are people who don't even have
There
the
are people
internet
still
yet.
rotary phones.
Yeah, they can still.
Oh, I love those
You
people.
know the first people to go? People with landlines. All right? Give it up. No one's calling your house.
You're such a hater. No one cares about your rants about technology. So,
I think people do.
The ironic part of that is I still have a
Nobody knows
landline,
this
but you're right, Joe. Nobody ever calls me on it.
No.
Except telemarketers.
Exactly. So you would gladly give up a landline.
I would gladly give it up, but
It's probably
my
bundled into your
cable.
internet.
It is. My
Yeah.
cable and internet
See?
is so much cheaper with it.
you save money that
I
way.
save money. That's the only reason I have it, because I haven't made a phone call on that phone
Yay,
in probably
capitalism.
12 years.
Capitalism
But I
is
use
great.
the internet and the cable every single day.
Oh my gosh.
Next
Thoughts?
question. If we eliminate capitalism, how great would life be?
Stop it. What are your thoughts? Thoughts on that one? No, he's deep in
I
thought.
guess I've never understood the Prime Directive. I understand in theory, but I think it's one of those ideas. It's like, well, if a species, it's Bill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bill. Sorry. I agree with what he's. It's like if there was a way to save a civilization and you're choosing not to because you're forced to because the Prime Directive says you can't because you can't use a certain technology to save a species. I feel that is a moral dilemma that you have to really.
But let's simplify it. Let's say you go to you're traveling through the universe and you go to this society that's a fairly advanced society, but they're struggling with food and their people are dying of famine. Don't you feel like as you're passing that world, you have some obligation to stop and be like, hey, wait, we have this technology that will feed your people?
Yes.
Going back on the
Right?
replicator
That's
thing,
what
You
I'm
can
saying.
do it in a way where they didn't have to know where it came from. Like if you do it in a way where they say, oh, hey, we got good rain, good crops. Or, oh, hey, we got Twinkies growing up out of the ground. I think that'd be a great
Star Trek into
That will not
really?
help you. Twinkies out of the ground.
I think that if you were starving, Twinkies would help you.
Yeah, that's
Is
like
that how they
idiocracy.
Do you remember in Star Trek
They
the
really
next?
grow out of the ground?
Yeah,
Yes.
they do. There's a Twinkie patch right behind my house. The wild Twinkies are the best.
Oh my God.
Were Scotty and Bones breaking the Prime Directive in Star Trek 4 when they gave the formula?
Transparent aluminum.
Yes. Well, now
They were.
I'm just now thinking about this. Was that breaking the Prime Directive?
Well, it's breaking
It
the Prime
was.
Directive, and it was ruining, like it was altering history, right?
Right.
They definitely broke the Prime Directive, but they had a really good reason to do it.
Well,
I know.
They did. That's what I'm saying. Like,
But isn't a good reason people are dying?
It was justifiable Prime Direction breaking.
I think people.
How do
are
we
dying
know
is
they didn't
always a
invent the darn
justifiable
thing?
reason.
That's what Scotty said.
Yeah, I
I
know.
know he didn't invent the damn thing.
And look what we have. We have transparent aluminum now.
We do have. That's a real
Thanks,
thing.
Scotty.
Because of Scotty. Thank you, Scotty.
See, I don't know. I kind of feel like so in an isolated civilization, if an individual in this civilization stumbles upon some kind of a discovery, right? Oh, I know how to melt down iron ore to create iron, and that's life-changing, right? Like, how is that really any different than like that type of a life-changing, society-changing sort of a discovery? How is that different than some other civilization saying, "Oh, hey, here's how you do this shit," right? Like, I'm not on board with the Prime Directive. I think that just make it happen.
Right.
It reminds me of there's an episode of The Next Generation, and I'm usually pretty good about remembering episode names, but I don't remember this one. It's the one where these people who were like offshoot of the Vulcans thought that Picard was a god. And that's because they did it in the wrong way. They got found out. People saw them, saw who they were, and they said, "Oh my God, these people are gods." If they were able to help them in a way where they didn't know what came from them, then it's kind of like if you needed $100 and I slipped $100 into your dryer. You said, "Oh hey, found $100 in my dryer." You know, that makes sense to you. You don't have to know that the Tooth Fairy brought it.
I don't know that it would make sense to me. I think I would struggle to go, I know that I did not have any way
You would struggle for
$100.
It could be the
about-
dryer
you
My
would
side.
struggle
spouse
for
is
about
cheating
30
on me. Why do
seconds.
they have $100?
It would lead to a whole other awful situation, I'm sure, right?
We're
like
getting
one of
a
those
divorce.
Black Mirror kind of a
Then
thing.
you welcome the $500 or $100, whatever it is.
Who's washing $500?
Money launderers.
Yes, no knee launderers.
Literal money laundering.
Have you not watched
Ozark is
Ozark?
doing that.
Come on, man.
That's a
Marty
figure,
Bird.
That's a figure of speech. You're not supposed to literally launder the money.
See, I've never been clear on that. I wasn't sure.
That goes like I've had a story point, a question that I used to ask my youth group kids all the time. That if you could hop in a time machine and see any artist at any point in time, who would you go and see? And mine is always Queen. I would go see Queen.
Do it around the table right now.
Where would you see them?
Live Aid.
Live Aid.
Live
That's the
Aid.
show I'd want to be at.
Yeah,
if it was
Live Aid would
Queen.
be cool. Yeah.
You know,
I don't think mine would be Queen, though.
I saw Prince in '96 once, and you know what? I would
You
go back
have
to
told
see
me that
Prince in
multiple
96.
times. It's
Because
like
I
you're
saw Prince in
bragging.
'96.
Friends, yes.
There's a show. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. It's at Wembley Stadium in 2007, I think, and it's Muse. And the crowd is insane. They're in the hands of Muse, right?
Yeah.
And it's a bigger reaction that the crowd is having at Wembley than was with Queen at Live Aid in '85.
So you'd go see
insane.
Muse.
Only to be a part of that environment. And I also like the music. I think
Really?
Queen is better, but I think the environment was more charged in that Muse
Well,
concert.
And I think the reason for that is Live Aid was a charity concert where there's a bunch of different acts. Not everybody's
Correct.
there to see Queen, whereas the Muse concert, I think, was the Muse concert at Wembley. Everybody's
was.
there to see Muse.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everybody's there and in unison singing along.
It's insane. Watch it.
So you go see Muse in 2000. What year was it?
Seven, I think it was.
So your time machine would go back a long, long time ago to 2007.
The
to see
intent
Muse.
is not to go to a phenomenally historic event like Queen
It's
was
who
at
you
Lime.
wanna see, yeah.
It's to be in an environment that is phenomenally charged.
Dave Matthews Band.
Come on.
Oh gosh, Dave Matthews Band.
There could be some.
Oh yeah, Dave Matthews Band. Playing a little bit of Dave right now. All right. Yeah, just a little bit of Dave. Sorry, I had some Dave Matthews clips that I played on the air.
I'd go see Prince. I think Prince is a great answer.
Absolutely.
I think
Me too.
Prince is a good answer.
Prince is a really good answer. No one would be the Beatles.
I don't care.
No.
I don't.
Here's the thing,
I'm good.
The Beatles weren't great live.
Yeah, I'm
They
good.
weren't, no.
They didn't
It's
they
not
didn't
about.
translate.
No, it's about the quality of the music, man.
yeah,
You see.
but going back to a
It's
live
about the quality
show.
of the event, not the historical element
It'd
of
be
the
like
act.
going to
It's experience.
Shea Stadium
For
for
me,
the
it'd be
the
about
Beatles.
seeing a performer who I grew up listening to, and although I
In
saw
their prime.
Prince, I was at the very last row of the Palace of Auburn Hills.
Oh, yeah.
So I would love to see him again, but be like maybe not front row, but maybe on the floor or maybe lower bowl.
Like his Purple Rain tour or something
Yeah.
like
Yes.
that.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'd love to see
absolutely.
Bob Seger in his prime.
Brahms Seeger. and
Not,
stuff.
not like now Bob Seger.
He's still good though.
When I saw Prince, I think it was the Sign of the Times tour, which, in my opinion, was the last Prince album I was listening to.
Yeah,
Sign of the Times?
Yeah.
that's not your opinion. That's a fact.
No.
You said, in my opinion, that's the last one I listened to. That
That's
would be
the
a
last
fact.
one worth listening to.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
He
Sorry,
had
I'm trying to be
plenty
sassy
in the
towards
90s.
Bill.
He had a bunch of good stuff after that, but Sign of the Times was the last album that I would say, okay, I can listen to this album.
No.
I mean, he's had some
The
good
Gold
stuff.
Experience? All right.
It's all right.
Oh wow, another fight.
What do you got, Josh?
Conflict. We call it
Conflict,
conflict.
yes.
Yeah, it's
Josh,
not
what do you
fight.
got?
Well, I'm going to go with what this gentleman over here to my right just said. Very similar. Oasis. It was like late 90s. They played some outdoor venue that was apparently like one of the largest. It was like
They have a
one of
live
the
album
largest,
off of that one.
Nebworth?
largest concerts that was ever played in, at least in Europe, I think. Almost like over 200,000 people or something. I can't remember, but just to be there and say like I actually was there
I
because
agree.
it's like listen, I mean it was bigger than the Beatles ever played. Like it was like
Well, they were huge.
they were the biggest band at
Yeah, I think it's
in
Nebworth.
that
I think it was
time.
Nebworth Park.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I can't remember where it was at, but it was.
That's
like,
what
I
it
mean,
was.
They were like literally at that moment they were considered the biggest band.
Well,
I don't
they
know if in
were.
the world, but in UK at least, and that concert was like
And they were
But
supposed
this guy
to be
has
bigger
thoughts.
than the
and just to
Beatles
be
if they would have
in
stayed together.
That,
And I
at,
you know,
at that moment saying
I
was
appreciate
there.
that. I can
That-
pick up on that because it's about being in that moment of time. It's not
Oh, do I
necessarily
go
And
to
they were
about-
Woodstock?
and they were good. They were. They had their issues, but they were good.
Sure.
They were good live.
Woodstock 99.
Yes.
Definitely.
See Korn
Woodstock
and Limp
99.
Bizkit.
$27 bottles of water.
Listen,
Oh my God.
has anybody ever watched the Limp Bizkit
Yeah.
concert?
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest sets of all time.
And you can see why things went nuts after that, based
I'm
off
not
of
talking
that.
like it's one of the greatest sets of all time in history.
Well, and then what's
It's
his name
insane.
came on after that? What was his name from? Who's married to Gwen Stefani?
Bush.
Gavin Rosdale.
Bush, yeah.
No,
Gavin Rossdale.
Gavin Rossdale
Yeah,
is
he
no
came on after
longer
that.
married to Gwen Stefani.
He was married to him.
no.
Blake
I think-
Shelton now
I
is married.
think I think Rage Against the Machine followed.
No, it was
I don't think it was Gavin Rossdale and Bush. I think it was Rage Against the Machine, Bush, Korn.
no.
Or
That's
Bush,
a weird
or
lineup.
Bush.
I
Red Hot
think
Chili
Bush
Peppers.
came on
Not
after
question.
one of them
I think that's weird.
and tried to chill it out.
I would bet money.
I will
that-
die on this hill. I will die. I will
Hold on,
literally.
hold on. Before I fact
I
check
will
for a
literally die.
literally die?
I
I
will run
will
up that
take
hill.
a. I will take a
So
katana.
before I fact check you for a third time on this show, I want to say that I would.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Are we keeping score?
Kind
Yes.
No.
So I think I just want to give one of our Patreon supporters, Annette, a shout out.
Our
Because
PP.
we had a Patreon episode about our favorite concerts, but it devolved
Yeah,
into something
she.
else.
Yeah.
And she commented some of the concerts that she
She
has
said
been to.
Prince.
She saw Prince in '84. She saw Van Halen on the Diver Down tour in '82. Police with the Go-Go's in '82. Bowie on the Let's Dance
Punching
tour
our
in
PPs.
'83. She also saw in the 80s Rush, Aerosmith, R.E.M., Elvis
My
Costello,
gosh.
Genesis, and the Ramones.
Wow.
That's amazing.
She listens to you guys?
If
That's
I were
impressive.
to travel back in time,
I know,
I
she's
would
cool.
want to travel back
Why
in
she
time.
listens to this show?
Be Annette.
Not to go to any show. I would want to travel back in time to be Annette.
Yeah, right?
And then go to these shows.
You know,
That's an amazing concert right
There
there.
are some unheard of, I bet you, like going back and I bet you some of the like early like Aerosmith shows when they when their teeth were cut and they were pretty good, but they weren't really super huge yet. Like I bet you there were some great shows that just no one will ever know about. Them
Almost see them in like a private like a smaller venue,
right.
like a St.
And it's
Andrews
just, you
Music
get to
Hall.
just have that moment, and then you can say, "Oh, I saw them before they got whatever huge or whatever they turned into." Right?
That's interesting. That makes me think, like, would I want to change my answer because of that? Instead of seeing someone in their prime,
Right.
would you rather see them right before they hit it big? And that would be an interesting thought. Huh.
So, fact check Nick. Limp Bizkit performed, and then who performed?
Bush.
Rage Against the Machine,
And
and then
then-
Metallica.
And then
Yeah,
Bush.
You don't put Bush in that lineup.
I think there should be a new feature of your
Was-
podcast.
who was
Fact
Bush
check
after
Nick.
Korn?
Bush headlined the East stage, a different stage on the same day.
Totally
They
different. Yeah.
headlined. They played after Korn,
Oh, okay.
which the Gavin Rossdale was scared out of his mind. Like,
To go up on the stage.
it should have never been Korn Bush. It should have been Bush Korn.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
You ever go back and listen to Korn or anything? Like I was never huge into that scene anyway.
Yes.
I literally just did that.
Like it's does not hold up well. I don't think.
I disagree.
I disagree. Holy.
I just listened
The
to
first
their,
3 albums, man? Come on.
I just listened to their first record, and I was blown away at how earnest it was.
Oh, my
Yeah.
gosh. She's using words like earnest.
For Korn.
Yeah, earnest saves corn.
Korn fans don't know what earnest means.
It has the juice.
But
No one-
the first
no one-
Korn
no
record
one's
would
got that
never-
meme?
could
Okay,
probably
dang it.
never get made now.
Especially was it Daddy?
Daddy, faggot.
Yeah.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
It's
whoa.
F-A-G-O-T.
And
Yeah,
F-A-G-E-T.
that'd be like you saying the
Gs.
N-word here and be like, no, I said G-A. Come on, bro.
It's the name of the song. I'm
No.
not allowed to say the name of the song.
no, you
If
get
there was a
canceled.
song that was the N-word, would
hold
you
on.
say the name of that
Hold
song?
on. I think that proves my actual point with the name, only the name of the song.
That couldn't get made today.
It couldn't get made today.
Okay, that's a good point.
And it's not a derogatory song. It's a very
Yeah, if you
dark
listen to the
song.
song is not derogatory. It's not derogatory.
You assumed it was derogatory.
It's a
I've
derogatory
listened
word.
to it. I know what song you're referring to. Awkward silence.
What's your next question, Nick?
Next
This
question.
is going so well.
All right, here's the next one. Yeah, we got off topic with bands, but that's okay.
Was that
Wait,
the first
Pam,
question?
what band did
Well,
you
I
say?
think
Did
that
you
was
say
the third
Freddie
question.
Mercury,
Yeah,
Queen?
yeah,
Okay.
Queen for sure.
Third question.
And
That
you
was-
said
Not the warm-up question.
Oasis.
There was
You said
conflict.
Prince. You said Muse.
Replicator.
I'm a Prince bandwagon, man. I
So
think that'd be
Prince-
phenomenal to see.
He said Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah.
Beating up kids with a warm-up.
All right.
Damn, you're
Hey,
right,
they're still
all right.
talking over there. We don't want to talk over each other.
All right. Here we go. So there's a story point that occurs often in Star Trek, and it's called the no-win scenario, which they call the Kobayashi Maru. The Kobayashi Maru is like a final test they give for other Starfleet officers before they graduate, and it puts them in a situation where it's truly a no-win scenario. No matter what you do, something bad will occur out of it, and that's their way of saying when you're in command, you're not always going to win. Things are going to go bad. How do you respond when things go bad? My question is, do you believe that there is a such thing as a no-win scenario?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
it possible to be a no-win? You know, all of you are yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and I hate to bring politics into it, but look at the state of our political world right now. It's a no-win situation. I mean, you can't be whether a Republican or Democrat in our society now, in our environment now. You can't say, hey, you know what? I, as a Democrat, agree with this Republican on this because, you know, you can't win.
Yeah, there's no centralist anymore. It's one or the
Yeah,
other.
There's no consensus. And maybe that's not a good example. Maybe it is. I don't know.
It's a
But-
small scale. I'm
Yeah,
not,
small scale. I mean, but there is such thing as a no-win situation. What did Picard say to Data? I said data.
you said data.
Data. We can call
What
them
did
data
Picard
from
say
now
to
on.
Data when he lost that little finger game? He says, sometimes you can do everything right and still lose. That's not a, that's just life.
But is that a no-win scenario? Because don't you learn something? Even if you've done everything right,
No
you still
scenarios
lose.
don't
Well-
exist.
I think they do.
How?
Wait,
Wait,
no.
how do they not?
No-win
Yeah,
scenarios
how
don't
do they
exist.
Yeah,
not?
yeah.
How do they not?
Wait, I think I'm with you.
If
Go
I
ahead.
Die,
Explain.
I lost.
There it is. That's where I'm
No.
at.
No, because you believe in eternal life, my friend.
So you
Wow, my gosh. All right.
Here comes the pastor.
You're welcome.
So-
I got you, my Baptist
Okay,
friend.
So the way I understand it is there's multiple outcomes, but none of them you quote unquote win, correct? But if they're all different, some of them, it's your outlook. So it's what you take away from each outcome that projects a win or a loss.
But what are we defining as a win, though? Right?
You have to
I
beat the
think
scenario to
what
win.
we're doing is we're defining it as A or B, win or loss.
So isn't the scenario like there's a freighter full of innocent people and there's Cleons?
That you don't know are there. So you have to go into Klingon space to save these people or do nothing. So basically,
You can either save the
save these
the
people or you
tourists,
don't.
or you can save your ship.
yeah.
If you save the tourists, or whatever they're called, the
So we're talking the end of the Dark Knight here, right?
Didn't they do
Yeah.
this
If you
in
save the
Batman?
colonists,
Yeah.
your ship gets destroyed and your
Okay.
crew dies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can save your crew, but all the colonists die.
The Dark Knight example is perfect. That makes
So
sense
then,
to me.
so
The trolley example
that is
in
a win. Like,
Good
they-
Place.
They ultimately
Or-
win,
Okay.
but even if one of those ships blow up,
Yeah.
you save the other half of the people. So it's,
But you
all
lose
those
the other
people
half.
Died.
I know, but but
You've
not
lost.
everybody dies. So it's your
But
outlook.
people die.
So it's your
People die all the
opinion
time.
of what's a
It's
win.
your outlook. It's your outlook.
5-year-olds
Yeah.
die all the time.
If I were fighting them, they absolutely would.
So
We're
in
not killing them. We're taking them on in a fight.
scenario in Star Trek, right? The Kobayashi Maru. There,
Yeah.
it's the ship explodes, right? Like it's a simulation where they're under attack. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I remember it's they're and they're trying to figure out a way to survive, and they can't, and they explode, right?
Right.
And
By them being involved, they will almost always die.
correct,
It's a
right?
test of
So,
character.
so I guess my point is that in that scenario, death is losing. Death is the no-win situation.
Yeah,
There's
because
no way to
you
stay
lose your
alive.
crew or the ship loses all its passengers.
I would say, even though I do believe that there is a such thing as a no-win scenario, I don't think the Kobayashi Maru was a no-win scenario. Because if I'm a Starfleet captain and I got this ship full of innocent colonists, if I have to die so that they can live, then hey, I figure that's a win.
So then you won
I won.
because you saved innocent people.
Yes.
And your crew
that's what
knows
you
what they
said,
were
Joe.
signing
It's
up
about
for.
And my crew knew what
But
they
you
were
went
signing
into
up for.
but you went into Klingon space and you started a war. Because you're going into Klingon, you're going.
That's the point of
you're
it. You
going
go
into
into
Russia
neutral zones.
to
So
save
you
these
do,
people,
that sucks.
and you start a war doing
It's like
it.
North and South Korea.
For the
You
record,
go in
Rob's yelling
the
at me.
57th parallel,
Second.
52nd parallel.
What are the parallels?
I don't. One of third. I don't know.
One
You
of the
go in that
parallels.
parallel, the no man's land there.
Not the perpendiculars.
You're not supposed to because you're saving someone, but you inadvertently start a war because you saved that person.
Yes. You've gone to Klingon space, so you've given the material to now start a war against the Federation because
So
you
are
invaded
you
their
starting
space.
a war to save people, and you risking your life. That's the whole no-win scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the way I look at it: is if in these scenarios, there's multiple outcomes. Is each
Joe's
outcome
There's really two.
equal?
He can't tell
To
when
one
I'm
another.
talking right now.
All he does is
doesn't have
talk.
His headphones on.
So is every
And it's
outcome
perfect
equal
because
to
he
each other?
can't hear me ripping him and insulting him.
If they're
I'm
not
sorry. What were you saying, Joe?
in these scenarios, if there's multiple outcomes, is each one equal to one another?
I think it depends on what perspective you're coming from.
So then that makes
If
my
you're
point,
if
is
you're
it's
the
all about
people being
perspective.
rescued, yes, of course it was a win scenario
So
because
that-
you're alive.
That makes my point is that's a win.
But it would
There
have to
is-
be a win.
because if there,
It's
the only way there's a no-win scenario is if every single outcome is equal to one another.
I think that's too broad.
Otherwise, one outcome is going to be maybe a little bit less bad or a little bit more good. You're going to save a few more lives, or you're going to save a little bit more money. If they're not equal, then one of those is going to be inherently better, which would be a win.
I'm gonna
as
jump
compared to the others.
I'm jumping franchises here, right? So in the beginning of Avengers Endgame,
Endgame, yeah.
right?
Oh.
Yep.
Where
That's- I was
Tony
gonna say,
Stark
yep.
and Nebula are on the ship,
Yes.
Yep.
and they've tried everything. They can't get it working right. They're about to run out of food and water. They've ran out of food,
and they're about to run out of water. Oxygen is about. There is nothing that they can do.
Yeah.
Right.
They've tried everything.
Well, even the end of Endgame, right? Well, there's 14,000 possible scenarios, but then the
Only one
that,
works.
that works, it's still a no-win because then
Only one works. That means it's a win.
No, it doesn't, because
mean it's a
people
win, because-
still die.
Yes.
But it's a win. If it works, it's a win.
But is it a win for Tony Stark's child?
That's very selfish.
No, it's
No,
not.
it's absolutely not.
Not if you're Tony Stark's child.
Yes.
I don't really care about Tony Stark, to be honest with you.
Is she 5? Is she 5?
She's 5 years old.
Her name was
I think she
Morgan.
actually is
Was
like
she
5.
five?
I think
I
so.
could beat her up
Yeah, I
a
know.
dozen times over.
I
And
think she was
Yeah,
6.
that poor child.
But your
I don't
thing
know.
for the beginning of Endgame is a great scenario because that's a no-win. If that other ship doesn't come along, they're toast.
They were rescued, right?
Yeah.
There was nothing they could do.
Yeah.
to
They
survive.
lost.
they literally exhausted
They
all
were ex machina
opportunities.
by Captain Marvel.
I
Yeah.
know.
There's one
Who
outcome
just
better than the other.
randomly was sailing through the skies.
Well, and really, I guess to your point, right?
worst.
And that's they had already
worst.
done what they needed
I
to do.
can't-
And I feel awful
So
saying
my
that.
point
but-
is, in that scenario, is one outcome better than the other?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
an outcome is going to be
Then
better than the other.
that's
That
a
doesn't mean that
win.
it's a win. It doesn't mean that.
Doesn't make it a win.
It doesn't make it a win. It
You
means
guys-
that it's
you
a
guys are thinking
resolution
of-
to
Hold
a
on,
problem.
hold on.
Thinking about perspective.
Stop.
No.
You stop talking. I just spit at you.
You can just
Sorry.
mute them, you know.
All right. You are the Detroit Lions.
Oh my god.
That is the literal only no-win scenario.
All right. And you will finish the season 14-2. 14
Oh yay, that's a
3.
good one.
That's 14 wins, by the way.
Okay.
Oh.
But your quarterback
17.
gets injured and is out for eternity. You lost your quarterback.
Okay.
Is that a win scenario?
That's
You
a bad
I've won
analogy.
14
I mean,
times.
you win the Super Bowl, but your quarterback
I
never
don't know if
plays.
that's a fair
No, you don't even make
Yeah,
it. You
quarterback's
make
a
it to the Super Bowl.
machine, they just
that's-
plug
Or,
a new
I'm
one
trying
in.
to think of like a
That's a
team.
that's
Florida
terrible.
Marlins. Florida Marlins win the World Series. The very next year, they sell off their entirety of their team, right?
Or a hurricane
They
hits.
wouldn't have won. They might not have sold off their
How did
entirety
they, how
of
did
their
they
team.
achieve that World Series? What did they do to do that?
They spent a lot of money.
But what did they do? They come on. Starts with a W. 3 letters. They
They
won.
whined,
They won.
That's for
That's
Nick.
a win scenario.
but then
You
they
win.
sucked for the next 20 years.
You win.
No,
That's a win.
I think sustained success is more important than a one-time success.
But that's different than a no-win scenario.
But I
The
feel like
scenario
that
is the
wasn't the
World
question.
Series. You won
That
that,
was-
World Series.
We're not talking about baseball.
We're not talking about baseball or football, guys. I don't get it. Sports ball.
sports ball.
Go team.
So what would you like to talk about then? What are we talking about here?
Give us another example of a
Laundry?
no-win scenario. What's
Oh,
a no-win
shit.
scenario? What did you just say?
It's all right.
This is
It's all right.
uncomfortable.
It's all right.
That was pretty good.
It's okay.
Listen, you did the
He's the edgy one.
scenario like a sports ball.
I got one.
And
I was
I
kidding.
got one.
I'm playing
I
like
got a no-win
I'm
scenario.
female, so I don't know sports.
I thought the Avengers
I
one was
wasn't
good.
doing that.
All right.
But thank
So-
you.
Joe's
Thank
officially
you.
cut off. Check this out. I can mute Joe. Cool, everyone. We got the whole
So
mic
here
to
we go.
ourselves.
Here's a different potential no-win scenario. I'm going to switch franchises yet again, and I'm hoping to get some more dialogue here on this side of the table. The Last Jedi, there was no way it could be good. It's a no-win scenario. Yeah, it was
That's
just
subjective.
god-awful. It destroyed the franchise. It was
No, it didn't.
totally terrible.
That is totally
Yes!
subjective. You're
Absolutely
right.
not.
It was terrible, but that's
No, it
subjective.
wasn't. It was not
Josh, get
terrible.
him.
I like
Get
The
him,
Last
Josh.
Jedi. In hindsight, it's now my favorite of the 3
It was the best of the 3.
because it tried new things.
Yes, it did.
No, it didn't.
So my point
Yes,
here...
it absolutely
Rewrote a
did.
new hope.
No, it didn't.
Joe, you're muted.
Not The Last Jedi. Force Awakens rewrote A New Hope.
Oh, the 4 year.
Yes, it did.
But
You're
the,
right.
the,
You're
la-
right.
the Last Jedi did not.
And the Rise of Skywalker, I think
The
it
Rise
was.
of Skywalker was-
It should be in my bathroom, is what that should be. I don't even know that I would use it to clean myself after I.
Well, then it would be in the
drop a
sewers.
deuce. It is awful.
So, Josh, why was it not a no-win scenario?
No, he's saying it was a good
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
It was no, I was saying it was a good movie. So
No,
I just.
Tell me why. Tell me why.
Oh, okay. Well, I did not agree with all the story choices, but I actually thought it was Adam Driver's best.
Kylo, yeah.
It was his
We love
best best version of Kylo Ren. of
Plus,
all
he
three
was
movies.
ripped without his shirt on in that one.
Trish dropping a
the,
juice right there, talking to Ray.
Oh my goodness!
He's doing the
Well, even
flexing
just
those.
like, from
flexing
an
those
artistic point of
pecs.
view, I thought it was like cinematically, it just looked the best. I
It was
thought
a pretty movie.
You may not have fully agreed and understood why she would have warp drive through.
I like that
But
scene.
that was probably the coolest Star Wars scene I've ever seen on screen. That just the audible gasp in the
audible.
theaters.
Was it the,
you know.
was it the audio that really
The lack of
clinched
it?
for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
The silence where you go.
Well, yeah, because that was
Yes.
But that was a very Firefly move, because I thought that was one. I think Joss Whedon was one of the first guys to really, I thought at least that I remember seeing that.
Like the
just
no sound in space?
No sound in space. I thought that was such a
But at the
cool
very
effect.
beginning of the movie, we have them bombing the ship, dropping bombs.
Bombing ships.
Yeah.
Okay.
With
But
the
those
lack
ships
of.
are so massive, they had gravity. I don't know if that's true.
All right, we're getting off the no-win scenario topic, though. I would like to argue about this later, because in hindsight, I think The Last Jedi is the best of the three.
No, and
Doesn't
that's-
mean I think it's a good film, because I don't.
Agreed.
Fine.
Agreed.
That's fine.
Agreed.
I'm
But it's a-
happy to let you both know how you're wrong
Of those
after
last
the
show.
show.
None of them were
best.
good, but The Force Awakens was the best of that three.
I agree.
Pam, what's a
And it was
no-win
just
scenario
nostalgia.
for you?
I mean, and really
Stop.
because I hadn't seen a
That
Star
one
Wars
felt
movie
the
like
most
20
nostalgic,
years.
which was why it was good.
Pam has a no-win scenario, right, Pam?
Sure, yeah.
What do you got? You don't have one. She doesn't actually have one.
I leaned in for that.
I like Bill's lean in.
You liked all the focus.
No, I don't know.
What about?
Freddie Mercury wanted to keep singing, but
Ooh, that is a no-win scenario.
yeah.
Being on this podcast, has that been a no-win
Yes,
scenario for you?
absolutely. Can I say that? That'd be great.
Could a no-win scenario be like you continue doing something knowing full well it's harming you, but you love doing it?
No, because in your eyes you're winning. You're doing something.
But
you
you're
love
not,
to the
because
very
you're going to
end.
end up.
It comes back to objectivism.
Perspective.
Yes.
It comes back to perspective, because the people around you, they would say that's not a good
Fuck them
thing.
though. It's perspective. So I say.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't know.
Sorry, I know this is we're not swearing on this podcast, but
Or are we not supposed
When
to
has that ever
apologize?
happened?
I don't
They
know.
sw-
Every time I swear and you give me a look like
No, that's
Like
not.
my mom,
That's
like-
not exactly. Well, I mean,
Joe,
Joey.
what did you just? Yeah.
Stop swearing, Joey.
That's funny because they all do call me Joey.
Yeah.
Since you have this on video now on YouTube, you have graphic Captain America going language.
Language, yes.
Oh, yes.
Language.
That is America's
Hey,
ass.
hey, that
right
was
there.
a no-win situation. Plane's going down. What could he do? What could he do? A whole lot of other things except ride that plane into the ice for 70 years. That's what he could have done.
Well, that was dumb. That was
Yeah,
dumb.
we should probably thought that.
Another no-win scenario was what, Sokovia, when
yes,
Yeah.
agreed.
all those people died, and then they hated the Avengers because of it, which was dumb because it wasn't their fault.
Captain America wasn't even a real captain, though. He didn't know. He didn't go to West
Yeah,
Point.
he wasn't actually a qualified captain.
Yeah.
Can we talk
That-
about that?
that's a battlefield
Oh,
connection.
you're ripped. You're a captain now.
But he wasn't even ripped. Like they injected him with something too.
But he was ripped after
Everything
that.
After
special
that,
about
yeah,
him
but
came
he-
out of a bottle.
Yeah, like correct.
I don't believe that, but I just love that line.
I don't care, but like,
I just worry about his ass.
can you look at someone and be like, "You are attractive. You are now a general."
Yeah, General.
Yeah.
Great.
General.
General
whatever.
Grievous, come on.
He's
That's
super
Oh,
attractive.
General
all
Grievous.
day. Sexy.
General Solo.
Hello, General Kenobi.
All those arms.
Hello there.
Come on.
Think of the possibilities.
Oh my.
There's no-win situation there.
Yeah, but all those arms,
It's a win-win.
Win.
those arms
win-win
have very
situation.
sharp, hot lasers on them.
Only sometimes. And some people are into that.
Don't kink
I'm
shame
not.
Nick.
Yeah, like Kenobi.
I am.
His lightsaber kinks.
Be in one committed relationship, not with 12 arms.
But that's still kind of
Listen,
technically
it's
one
committed
relationship.
It's still General Grievous.
Yeah,
He's
that's
got
true.
options.
That's true. That's true. You got options. Oh gosh, this is. All right, who's got another question? Do you got another question? Do you?
Me, I just got general topics.
So you had the one about the Bell riots.
The Bell Riots.
That would be interesting to talk about.
In the past tense, the
Okay.
episode past tense, the Bell Riots were basically class riots
Yeah.
that occurred in the year 2024,
2 years from now.
Right.
2 years from now, and
Can I give?
seems like we are on a path there.
So can I give some background on that?
Yes.
So Deep Space Nine did an episode in 1996-ish that said 21st century America was a total train wreck. You would go there and they had these things called sanctuary districts where they just took all their homeless and their poor and they shoveled them into the districts.
Think Portland.
Yeah. They shoveled them into one area to keep them away, so everything else looked good outside of that, but inside the district, things were absolutely terrible.
Portland.
And so they traveled back in time, and they're like, how did they ever let it get this bad, was the thing that they said. I remember that, and I can't remember how we responded. They didn't know any better or something like that. How did they let it get this bad? They didn't know any better. So your question based off of that is, are we there?
It's not necessarily a question. It's just
An observation?
an observation that we're concerningly close to this work of fiction that at the time it was written was supposed to be like completely off
That there's
the wall.
no way
There's
that
no
would
way
happen.
Isn't this crazy? And we're basically there. I mean, we're like 70% of the way there.
Yeah, because they wrote this in 96, and they're like, how far could humanity fall? Okay, here's how far. They would create whole districts of cities where they would shove all their homeless and their poor people in,
And I think-
and they would ignore
I
them.
think we just in the episode that we discussed these in our episode where we discussed these episodes,
Yeah.
past tense. I think I said something like, "This is what a second Trump term would look like," and I still don't disagree with that. But I think even taking politics out of it, we're very close to that. As far as the distinctions between class, the haves and the have-nots, and whether it's money or whether it's access to information or healthcare or housing, all of these things, we are way closer to the Bell Riots than we are from the Bell Riots.
Can I play devil's advocate here?
Sure.
So I think it's been a long time. So my if you're gonna fact check me, it might be a little bit off, but the
Wrong.
I only fact
the
check
general gist is this, right? So I think it was 1600s Florence, right? Italy. Okay, things were not good, and the Pope, I think, marched an army into Florence because it was overrun with homelessness, with vagabonds, with the dredges of society, right? And they killed everybody. They killed everybody. They purged the city, right?
I never
then,
knew this.
After Florence was purged, it became the cradle of the Renaissance. Sort of a pruning of the tree, sort of an
Is this
analogy.
the equivalent of shaving your head when you get lice?
Kind of.
I saw that episode of The Office the other day. It was pretty good.
So the devil's advocate position is maybe are callings necessary for the advancement of the broader civilization? The left behind get left behind.
But are we leaving these people behind for valid reasons? I don't think we are. And when it comes down to class war, I don't think the left behinds are just.
Worthy of being called,
I don't want to just leave these people behind.
says the man who would murder 5-year-olds.
Listen, I'm not leaving them behind. I'm bringing them on and I'm whipping them.
You're letting him know what the world has to offer.
Yeah.
Not much.
If you can make it through my ass whooping, then you know what you can make it through this world.
You got it.
You got this. Pat on the back and hit the bricks.
Do you have a specific examples where you say we're about 70% there? Do you where do you see in our country? Or you made a comment too about if you saw another Trump presidency that would kind of spearhead us to there. Do you see things in the country where you see people are shoveling the poor? And I mean,
Didn't they do something like that in San Francisco?
well, that's I get. Well, you're saying these things, and I was thinking San Francisco, but I don't think that's where you're going with it, because I think San Francisco, that's a different issue, because
Right.
they're there because I mean if you're gonna be homeless, California's gonna be the best place to live.
Yes,
because of the
exactly.
weather, right?
Where
You know,
else are you going to?
you
It's
know,
not
but-
because they're Democratic
But
state.
I'm
It's because the weather is nice.
More I think when Nick was trying to explain the Bell Riots, I think the example I gave on Mike was Portland. And Portland is outwardly a cool city to go to, right? Historically it's been like a destination for young people that want to have fun but when you go there, there's tent cities, there's mass homelessness, there are a lot of people that have nothing that are there, that are taking up they're using a lot of resources, they're using a lot of real estate and land, they're soaking up things for reasons that are curable or reasons that we can do things about.
Okay.
And to me, that's the closest things we have to the bell rides. I think California is more or less on its way there. And then the reason I brought up Trump was because towards the end we were having these quote-unquote sanctuary cities where, you know, there was a lot of homelessness. There was a lot of people fleeing to these particular cities that didn't have a lot of things. They didn't have a lot of means. And to me, that's the beginnings of what the bell rides eventually became. I think my concern, I think, with
This is making me have
the
drinking
second
problems.
Trump presidency was more or less him being a lame duck president. That was the part that concerned me. The things that were concerning to me, in the first presidency would be, you know, would just be magnified maybe 10 or 50-fold in a term where he had nothing left to go for. I don't necessarily think it has to do with politics as much as that, as I do with late-stage capitalism, where you have people that don't have as much have increasingly less, and people that have a lot have increasingly more. And those two groups become farther and farther apart, which means there's more people left in the middle, and those people are closer to the bottom than they are to the top. And that's where I think eventually we're getting. And I think it's just at this point I think it's just a matter of time than it is a matter of anything else. I think time is the number one factor in all of this.
Well, I feel good about the world now. Thanks for that, Joe.
Ironically, that was a very sobering thought from somebody who's not very sober.
See, I can't believe that. Like, I think as low as we can go, I think humanity has this propensity to realize the error of their ways right before it's gone too far. We always do. Like, I mean, you look back to like World War II, like we realized how dumb we were. We knew what was happening in Germany a lot sooner than we admitted it. But we let it go for so long, and finally we were like, we can't continue letting this happen. And we went in there. What were you going to say? You got your 1 point finger.
Well, I just want to. I agree with you, but what I'm thinking is like January 6th. So we're really towing the line of like overthrowing the government, right? We're pushing it further and further and further. And you're saying we've always been able to come back from this, right?
Yeah, we have. Even in the United States, we have.
Until we can't.
Until we can't.
How?
But I don't live in the until we can't.
But at this point, you're going to live through the until we can't.
No.
This brings me back to warp drive. That's the best technology.
Get out of here. I don't know.
You don't want to participate in this conversation, Rob?
What's that?
You don't want to participate?
I don't do politics on the show.
Come on.
So let me maybe take a step here to try to segue politics into fiction still. And I needed Joe's
fiction.
I needed Joe's help here to remember the series, right? So we talk a lot about Star Trek and Star Wars, but when I saw The Expanse, right? You guys saw The Expanse?
Oh, so good.
Right? And I understand that it was a book before a book series before it was a TV an Amazon series. I did not read the book, so I might be leaving a lot on the table
Books are
here.
way better.
But one of the things that I took from that series was, like, in my heart, I thought that was a more likely future,
right,
than Star Trek.
Yes,
right, like the utopias environment. Oh, mankind has decided to not, like, have conflict with each other, and we're going to form the Federation and explore the galaxy, right?
Well,
I love that idea.
It's a dream.
But I think that in reality, the Expanse is probably a much more realistic outcome of what the future looks like in 400 years.
See, I think the Terminator 2 future is more likely for us.
Well, that's pretty close to the Expanse. So
Yeah.
Terminator 2, in a lot of ways, because there's still the factionalism, and now instead of it being like the United States versus Russia, it's Mars versus Earth.
The Belters
versus the Belters,
right, who are enslaved essentially.
The Belters are basically the third-class citizens,
Yeah.
where Mars is the upper class and Earth is second-class citizens at that point. Mars is the rich people.
I think Star Trek is basically idealistic.
Agreed, and I love that, but I don't think it's.
That's
I
what
don't
I
think
want.
it's realistic.
Well, the second
That's because
part
it's
of
fiction.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Is the second part of sci-fi. The fi part is fiction.
Yeah.
It's not true. This is an idealistic view of what could be.
Yeah.
What we would want.
That's our hope.
Right. There's hope. If we double down on our hope, we bet on our hope, we continue to win
Right.
with hope.
Right.
That's Star Trek. That's what it could be. That's what the future could be is Star Trek.
Yeah.
But I think.
So you believe our future's going to suck, and you believe our future's going to suck.
Immediate. Well, how far in the future?
There you
are
go.
we
That's the
talking?
that's the closing question when we get to it. What's our future
Is
look
our
like?
future going to suck?
Yes. All right. See you later. Next.
Yeah.
That was.
On that, Captain, come down.
I mean, that kind of segues into this. Like, is the whole idea of Star Trek this utopia realistic, or is it completely unrealistic?
I think it's unrealistic.
So let's ask a different question, right? Take
Your podcast? Okay, fine.
Star Trek. Let's take it out of the equation,
way, so.
right?
Okay.
Star Trek is not on the table anymore.
Yeah.
Can anyone think of a monster successful sci-fi franchise where it's optimistic, where the future is optimistic? Star Wars, I would say, does not.
No, it's
No.
not.
Right?
Because things
The
always
Expanse
suck.
is not.
Elf.
The Orville.
That's the second week
The
in a row you mentioned it.
Orville, maybe.
But it's not optimistic because things suck.
So, like,
they're involved in.
I guess
Things
like,
suck, but
is,
it's pretty good in
is
those.
Star Trek the outlier here?
I think in a lot of ways it is.
The Hunger Games. No?
No.
It doesn't suck if your president's no.
Oh, Divergent. Oh, crap. The Maze Run. Crap. I'm trying. Oh.
Dune, which I don't
So
actually
is
know if
there
it takes
any-
place in the future or in the past.
So
I
then,
don't
is there any connection to Star Trek being the least mass popular of these science fiction franchises because it is so optimistic?
I
If
don't
you
know.
think about it, I mean, overall, I think more people like Star Wars than Star Trek.
Oh, by
That's
far.
fair, but some of the other franchises that we rattled off here, I think Star Trek is a monster franchise. I think there's a lot of people that aspire to the hope that it provides, right? I just can't think of any other big franchises that are actually hopeful.
Well, here are the 10 highest grossing sci-fi movie franchises of all time. Number 1 is Marvel. I don't know if I would call that sci-fi. I mean, I guess
That's
it
not
is.
sci-fi.
Star Wars is number 2,
Boo.
which is crazy that Star Wars is number 2 when you think about the cultural influence. Like, that's a whole other topic.
I don't
Good
really
recency
know
bias.
sci-fi is.
Movies are bigger than TV shows.
Yeah.
Recency
So,
bias.
anyways, number 3 is Jurassic Park. Number
Interesting.
Not
4,
hopeful at all.
number 4 is Transformers.
Not hopeful.
Number 5, Hunger Games.
Not hopeful.
6, Avatar.
Maybe.
No, it's not
We're waiting
hopeful, though, right?
37 years to the next movie,
Here's
so
the
we
thing,
have to
I
wait
hope
and
it
see.
doesn't happen.
Avatar, who cares?
7 is Star Trek. 8 is Planet of the Apes.
Nope.
That's a positive outlook.
9 is Terminator.
Wow.
Jesus.
10 is The Matrix.
Good Lord.
I just proved.
I think the best.
Can I drop one of these mics? Can I pick it up and just drop
Please-
it, or
please
is that
don't.
I
not
think the
allowed?
best question is, out of those, what is the most hopeful franchise?
Oh my gosh.
Star
You know,
Trek, Star
take
Trek.
Out, take out Star Trek.
Or how about the only one that's hopeful?
The Matrix has a hopeful twist to it, I suppose.
Ish.
Yeah, the humans aren't fighting each other. They're fighting the robots. Like, they're all in
Prime
unified.
Directive.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Like, I'm looking at the greatest sci-fi franchises of all time, and it's not encouraging.
Star
Using his phone during
Wars.
the show.
Star Wars could be there if the trilogy didn't suck
Back
massive.
to the Future.
balls. Back to
we
the
go.
Future is good. That's a good one.
I say the Star Wars is not sci-fi; it's more fantasy. There's
Science fantasy.
Sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll say more fantasy, but science fantasy. I can go science fantasy.
All right, here's a closing question then. One final question, unless you gentlemen have other questions.
No, I think we're good.
So, you have a choice to live in one world of a movie or a TV show or whatever. It can be fantasy, it can be fiction, whatever. What world are you living in?
I have an immediately.
What
I'm not-
TV
Oh,
show
that's easy.
world?
A TV show world or movie
Or
world?
a movie world.
Anything.
It's either.
Any
Oh,
fictional
you know,
place.
Harry Potter world, of course.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Yes.
You're living in Harry Potter. That is a dark world.
That's a dangerous
Where I
place.
want to be.
Dark as hell.
I'm
No,
good.
I love it.
I would say
That'd be-
Star Trek,
I'm
as long
with
as
you.
I don't have to be in the Federation.
How about Ryza?
Yeah,
Or
that's
say
what I'm
Starfleet.
saying.
You
I
wouldn't
don't
Let's
want
go to
I
Ryza.
wouldn't want to be
Pledge your
Starfleet,
plan.
not Federation. I'm just
Because you're going to die.
I wouldn't want to be in Starfleet.
Hollow Suites?
I want to have a nice job on Earth running a Creole cafe in New Orleans.
Nice.
Yes.
Yes.
Beignets.
Yes. Okay. All right. So Harry Potter. What are you going to be in Harry Potter? Are you going to be a Muggle? Or are you going to be a wizard?
No, wizard. Wizard.
Are you
for
going to
sure.
teach at Hogwarts? Or are you
Wait,
going to teach?
what are the 4 things you're going to be?
The houses?
Yeah.
Slytherin. I'm actually a Slytherin.
She's going to be an Auror.
Yes, I'm
I'm
going
a
to be an Auror.
Hufflepuff all the
for
way.
Sure.
No idea what I am.
You
You're
are.
a
Okay, wait a
Slytherin.
second, though. No.
You don't think he's a Slytherin?
No.
Talk dirty to me.
You're not a Raven.
You don't think he's Ravenclaw?
I don't think he's Ravenclaw.
Can I just ask what the difference is?
There's a whole list. There's like laundry list at laundry.
There's
I know Josh has got
Ravenclaws.
it,
There's,
too.
there's Gryffindors.
I'm Gryffindor.
Josh, what am I?
I'm such a
I actually was thinking Ravenclaw myself.
Yeah, see, like,
Ravenclaw?
yeah, I was gonna say a toss up between like
All
a
right,
Ravenclaw
explain
with a little
Ravenclaw to me
Hufflepuff
real
in.
quick. Why is he a Ravenclaw?
Well, Ravenclaw's like
Smart.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
wow.
Okay, well, first of all, you're 0 for
Strike
1.
one.
Okay.
No, because it's like the like. I can see like why.
I feel like Ravenclaws are the jack of all trades.
No.
Like they can
Yes.
be cunning,
Not true.
like the Slytherins, but they're not.
They're
What would
smart.
you be?
I'm a Hufflepuff.
Oh,
all
yeah,
the
he's
way.
definitely a
love it.
Hufflepuff. I mean,
Love
he
it.
just sounds like a Hufflepuff.
I'm a loyal till you die.
Yeah.
Like
There you
I'm
go.
Yeah.
ride or die
He
guy.
definitely has some Hufflepuff.
Except for when I'm
Oh
like
yeah, he's
airing out
definitely
dirty
a mix.
laundry.
Definitely
What would
mixed,
I be?
but I think Ravenclaw's a little bit.
Slytherin.
You're a Slytherin.
But it's
Why?
true.
That's it right there.
Slytherins aren't bad. One of the bravest Slytherins was Snape, man.
True.
Snape was a
right.
It's
jerk.
so true.
You know what?
He was
Snape
all,
was a dirtbag.
the worst.
I proudly wear my
He
Slytherin.
did not
scarf.
have to mock and torment Hermione and Ron and
But it was fun.
Harry, but he did.
It was fun.
He knew what he was doing.
Mess with him. Go for it.
All right, anyways, back to
Kids
this.
suck.
Back to
Small
this.
little man.
You're in Harry Potter.
I'm Harry Potter.
You're in Star Trek. What world are you living in? Dramatic pause. He's thinking about it. He's twirling his mustache
Go,
maniacally.
go back to him.
Oh, we can go back. Do we
Yeah,
want
we
to
go
come
back.
All right, who's got one next?
I'm with Harry Potter. I don't
Yes.
even give a shit. I don't care what house I'm in.
Yeah.
I want to be a wizard.
Yes,
Harry Potter.
same.
They
care.
spend so much time in school and they learn like 9 spells.
Oh my god, you guys want to
Expelliarmus!
class after class?
Avada Kedavra!
Yes.
Bored with
I've got
that.
homework.
Yes.
Well, isn't
I
that
want
just
all of it.
the end result of the Star Trek universe is that they've been in academy for 70 years and now they're finally
Yeah, but they
Star
got
Trek
replicators.
captains? I got a Patronus, whatever, it's fine.
Hey, you're just graduated from Starfleet. Here's a ship, Kirk. So dumb.
That was dumb.
That was dumb.
I guess I would have to pick Star Trek. Ultimately, I think I was leaning toward Harry Potter too because that would just be fun. But I like the harmony of like the Star Trek. That's what is like no money. Like everyone it kind of
Just does what they wanna do.
Kind of do it. I don't know how that
For the
works,
good of society.
but just kind of sounds nice.
Yeah.
You have the occasional like tiff with an alien race, but you got the Federation to take care of it. And you're exploring new worlds. That's kind of exciting, and there's.
Plus, you get to party with Klingons.
I feel like the news would always be coming through like, oh, we just discovered this new planet, and that's cool. Let's do it. So I don't know. It just seems like something you always do. But
I feel like I can't buy into the reality of I can buy into
Yeah.
the reality
Yeah.
of the political bullshit
Yes.
that comes along
Absolutely.
with the Harry Potter
gets deep,
universe,
yeah.
right? Like, but like Star Trek, it's too utopian. It's so utopian. I'm like, this is crap. This is not real. This will never happen.
But the question was not what do you believe is real or not.
That's fair.
Like
That's
what would you rather live in?
Bill,
Yeah.
where are you going?
It's not a matter of what's real.
I
Yeah.
think I would choose
Star
the
Trek?
Yeah,
utopian.
except I'm going to Star Trek, but I'm not
absolutely
in
respect
Starfleet. I want to live on Earth in a civilian job. Star Trek.
And run.
New Orleans.
run a restaurant where people are like ordering food and they don't pay you, and you're like, that's okay.
Listen,
Which is so
I'm going
weird.
where they have holodecks and mirror universe. All right. That's where
And Tenet Kira.
Well, now, see, I'm assuming
Joe's
that
gonna go
they
cheat
have
on
holodecks
himself
on Earth.
with himself
Yes.
in the Mirror Universe.
Makes a lot of sense.
He's gonna go for Mirror Universe Joe.
I think Redford checks if you.
Oh yeah, we're cashing out, baby. We're cashing out. Yeah, look at that. This is perfect because they're coming up to us to cash us out as we're ending the
they're kicking us
podcast.
out. Listen.
They're literally. Oh, we're like the last one.
chairs are
No,
We
there's
are
like
not
7
the
other
last
people in
ones.
here.
We are
Chairs on the table.
definitely close.
All right, we're
Sorry.
close. We're close. We close
We're
this
1
bad boy
hour
down.
and 51 minutes and 12, 13,
I like it.
14
That's
seconds.
pretty good. That actually is not our shortest episode or longest episode we've had.
And there's so many more people here. God, you guys talk a lot.
Yeah,
We do.
Yeah.
All right, so you said Harry Potter, you said Star Trek, you said
I'll probably go Trek, man. I'll hang out on
Trek.
DS9.
I'm going Star Wars. I'm going to be a Jedi in the High
Oh my
Republic,
gosh, that
man.
sounds terrible.
No, I'm going to
Nerd.
be a Jedi in the High Republic.
Guess what? You're dead. Isn't that a
Oh,
thing?
Be an
Isn't that a
awful
thing?
High Republic
Jedi.
might not be bad.
Nick wouldn't be an awful Jedi.
No, I think it'd be no.
Jedi,
Get outta here.
Hey guys,
He'd
you
be
give
great.
hugs.
He'd be some bum
Jedi can
Tatooine,
hug.
Like,
I would love to be a Jedi that hugs.
Star
That's
Wars
the
is one of
dream.
those rare universes
That would
where
be sweet.
Disney was like, "Oh, we made a whole universe about it," and I don't care.
Nick,
I
you're
don't
just a
want to
whole
go
vibe. I
visit
love
you.
it.
I think
Thank
it's an
you,
awful
thank you. I
place to be.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm all about the hugs. Give me the hugs.
You never
I
give
would
me a
love
hug.
it.
Well,
I would
You're a
rather
whore.
be in the Indiana Jones universe.
Yes.
than
there
Star
you go.
Wars.
Hey, Knight Rider.
Knight
A
Rider.
man with no name.
I would rather be in the Baywatch universe.
Actually, we're onto something there.
Yeah.
I'd rather be in
The Baywatch
PI
universe. Where
Make
the,
me Mitch, and I'm the king lifeguard of all the other lifeguards.
my gosh.
That sounds better to me
Oh my gosh.
than Star Wars
Yes,
universe. And I
yes.
love Star Wars.
First of all,
It's not a place I want to be.
And I love Baywatch.
yeah,
Oh my
Baywatch definitely is a better world than Star Wars.
Fair enough.
well, does anyone have final thoughts that they would like to add?
I don't know how you can top Baywatch.
Hey man, I
right.
gotta say one thing.
What?
Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine.
Yes.
yes.
Can we talk about that for just a hot second before we cut out of here?
Hugh
You
Jackman's
have
coming.
like 8 minutes.
You have 8 minutes. So Hugh Jackman, I don't know if you've heard,
Oh, we've heard.
but they announced it the other day for Deadpool versus Wolverine, which is the perfect pairing. The Wolverine who's super serious and Deadpool who's a goofball. I think that's perfect.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
You can't ask for anything more.
Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. I feel bad for anybody who plays Wolverine after Hugh Jackman.
Well, and I
Shouldn't
think
be a
that's why they
Wolverine.
cast him because they realize
Are we
no
doing
one
our
else
news
can.
at the end?
Yes.
Did
It's
we talk
backwards
lower
today.
decks?
No, we didn't. We're not done with Hugh Jackman yet.
We're not going in. We'll go into that our next episode.
But these guys won't be here.
Fine.
This is a 2-hour episode. We cannot do that much
the
news.
the one time I'm up to date on Star Trek spoilers.
I know.
and you guys are like, oh, we don't want to talk about it.
I know. We're cutting you off. There are worse things to happen. So, what can you do? But, anyways, anything else? I say we wrap up. It's been a great time. We've enjoyed ourselves, and it's time to go.
You have to do this again.
So, in the meantime, follow us at Cardassians Pod on Twitter.
Bam.
You can
Nailed
also
it.
follow us on Instagram at keeping_up_Cardassians.
How
You
does
find
he
us
do
there.
this better
You
after
can
he's
do
grinned?
I know.
Facebook. You can find us on Facebook,
Facebook?
and YouTube as well.
Patreon month.
You can find us on JoanLeeFans, and that's where you can
Somebody
find us.
please.
What about that
please.
Patreon?
And on Patreon.
Desperate.
Join us because we are working on something amazing.
It's gonna be great.
And we'll tell these people
Yes,
after
we
we
will.
cut off. We'll tell them because they have to know. But that's it. So, anyways, have a good day, everyone. We love you. And goodbye.
Like,
May the force be with you.